says, how do you drum up June, July, August, September into October? Look at our occupancy.
I do want you to know one exciting thing. We do have tournaments scheduled almost every single weekend, I think for the next 7 to 11 weekends. So it doesn't it's not Shakespeare, it's not Summer Games level, but it is when you said try to come up with creative ideas, that some of the creative things we've been working on is we have fields, let's get people on them and into restaurants. And so that's working with businesses and all of that. That's,
There's no silver bullet. It's going to take a whole bunch
every
of
little thing
things that will add up.
Yes.
I've got clients in the B&B industry. They are panicked because every reservation for the summer is canceled.
Mm-hmm.
Every reservation.
And so that was why we were trying to get fields instead of sitting vacant. Let's try to get people into them and staying in hotels and try to, and that's the thing is it's going to take all of us and all of the different ideas we can come up with and working together.
Well, it seems a little silly to be talking about $4.5 to $6 million for a gymnasium.
Thank you, good sir. Oh, good. We're back. We're back streaming. So.
Oh, Bruce, they missed you. Missed you by that much, Bruce. We're streaming now.
How many other, Brad?
Go again?
How many chairs are over by you?
There's three.
Are there three? There's a couple for whoever's out in the hall. If you would feel more comfortable out
that's his
there
chair.
or inside, there are a couple of chairs over by
Oh,
Mr. Green, and I can't actually really see all the way over in that corner.
Yeah, there's
but-
two more. There's two more
Okay.
chairs.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Perfect. All right, go ahead. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Mike McCoy, Cedar City. I'll go through this at the risk of repeating some of what has been said, but please bear with me and let me roll through this. The video that is in
Do you
question.
have it typed out?
Huh?
Do you have it written?
I do.
Oh,
Because
Can
my
Renan
head's
have
been
it?
kind of full lately.
Renan, have it when you're done.
Yeah, you can't have this part unless you want to go to the store for me. But the and
Okay,
if
great.
you want to
Thank
if
you
you want to
so
take care
much.
of some stuff for me, that'd be great. But look, I had the video that was sent to me. It's actually I think a very very well done piece. But I was kind of flattered actually by having my name mentioned in a meeting that I wasn't even at. So it was just kind of interesting to have that happen. But I am the Mike McCoy in the video, and I want to clear my name up a little bit here, and that is that I am not one of the hockey people. Okay, and the reason why that it's already been alluded to is because there's no such thing as hockey people. There's no such thing as ice rink people. There's no such thing as the street sweeper people or the neighborhood preservation people who don't want apartments built in their neighborhoods. We're just constituents. Okay, we live in this city, we own businesses, we provide services to people, we like living here, and our concerns are from the heart, from our labor, and we come here to get our concerns addressed. Okay, we're constituents. I'm not a hockey person. Even though I coached and skated and had my kids play and everything else, and it was a wonderful environment, I teach them to move on. And I've moved on. I think it's time that everybody here moves on and figures out that not every issue is tied to the ice rink. My agenda has nothing to do with trying to keep the rink up for another year. My recollection is that it was a matter that was voted on, and it's a done deal. Right now, the ice rink doesn't register on my list of things to think about. It's a dead issue. And one of the reasons is because the world has changed in profound ways since we all were here a couple of months ago talking about what was going on with the rink or the gym or anything else. I'm not an historian, but I've been around the world and I've got quite a bit of experience. And I can tell you that I can actually sit here and say, in my opinion, that I think the world's almost on a pre-1930s, pre-World War II footing. Right now, there's a lot that can go wrong in the world these days, including what our economy here and including the economy in the United States and globally. There's a lot that can impact this. I don't think that we can underestimate it. I haven't had income from my business in 2 months. So no, I'm not a hockey person, but even if I was, as was alluded to in the, not alluded to, it was said in the video by you, then, even if I was one of those people, I still have a say. And I'd be proud to associate myself with them, but I'm here as a constituent. I'm a father and I'm a voter, and I think that there's a potential for real disaster to hit in Cedar City and around here in the nation. With luck, with luck, I'm wrong. I also need to clear up the fact that I'm not a dissident recruiter for some cause. I wasn't recruiting people to come beat up the city council. All right, if I wanted to do that, I would do it in person verbally. All right, I was not recruiting anybody for any weird cause. Listen to the tape. Just go back and listen to the tape. It's just one Facebook post that I put up. It's easy to understand. All I'm doing here is participating in a process that our country was founded on. That's it. It's representative government. And I'm here as a friend of the city council. I'm here as a friend of the mayor and a friend of the city, and somebody who's concerned. But I was in no way going out into some radical marker to make my point. I was just simply getting people to participate and be aware of the things that are going on. Look, the world has changed, and nobody in here can really forecast what the end of this is going to be. I just know that there are a lot of people out of work. I know there are a lot of people struggling to make ends meet. I know there aren't a lot of people with disposable income to come to my business and take care of their kids. I'm trying to adapt. I'm trying to do the things that I can. But there's a lot of pain out there. There's a lot of there's a lot of concern out there. And my bottom line is that weight rooms, gyms, and other luxuries are fantastic, but not now. I don't think that this is a time for us to be talking about these now. I think that to give whatever the police and fire and municipal water and critical infrastructure needs, I think that's where we need to spend our time, and that's all I was saying, and that's all I will say to you. I plead with you to spend our money wisely as we go into what could be a very big storm. I learned leadership from some of the best people that I could possibly ask to learn leadership from. And, sorry. All I got to tell you is that leaders, some of the best leaders out there, follow. And with a lot of things that are going on with this city right now and with the division that we have, I ask you guys to step up and be leaders. Be selfless, be courageous, and listen to what people ask you. Listen to what people tell you to do, and follow. Sometimes followers are the best leaders. I ask you to please, I know that this is for later, I'm not going to talk later, but I'm going to tell you now, please don't approve the money for the budget that goes into building a gym. Not right now. Not right now. Please do it later. That's all I got.
Can I ask you one question?
What?
And I should
Yes.
know this. What is your business?
I have a swim school and a swim team.
Okay. Perfect.
So
I know that we've heard that before, but I just couldn't right now remember, so thank you. And if I could get that copy, I don't need your shopping list. You can
no, I'll
keep
take
your
that with me.
You can keep your shopping list, so.
Who do you want me to give this to?
You can even Renan, or you can hand it to Craig. Thank you, Mike.
Would you like to plug that the swim school is opening up next week on Monday for dry land workouts?
You come up to the microphone. He teaches your kid.
They were doing some dry land this morning. I don't know who was there. I had something else I needed to take care of, but they were. The university pool is not open. I'm sorry, I don't know if I heard your question properly or well enough, but
You're going to have to actually explain what that means.
Dry land is just a workout for swimmers that doesn't involve water.
Oh.
yeah,
Everything
which
else
is
is-
challenging for them sometimes.
Right.
But because they can't walk. But the pool is not open. Our pool is, but I want to say, and I'm not sure because I haven't really seen my wife today, but I think that we do have a couple of lane spaces up on the hill while we wait, which is phenomenal because we've always very much liked that pool and what we're offered up there. And I'm not saying that because I'm standing here at the podium. I'm sincere about that. It's always been a good place for us to go. But the university pool right now is...
You normally work at the university
Yes,
pool.
the
Yeah,
university
that was
pool
what I was-
is normally where we're out of, and that's not, we've asked, I just don't think that they know. It's nobody's fault over there. It's just, you wait to see what people in probably another city have to say about when they're going to open.
So you have rentals up at our pool next week.
I think. Don't
You do.
What's that?
That's what the guys in the back of the room.
Oh,
You do.
I'm sorry, I didn't even see you guys because I've been sitting here and no,
Here it is.
do we? Okay.
Well, there you go.
I also believe that the university physical education building is also having a maintenance building going on. They're doing a re-roofing project or something on that building at the university as well. So I don't know how if that affects the pool or not, but they are working on the building.
A lot of factors, a lot of different moving pieces there.
Yeah.
Chris Hudson, Aquatic Center Manager. I actually just spoke with your wife literally before I drove here. And she's starting lessons next week.
Oh,
Not lessons, but the swim team. They're booked. They've already paid for the 3 to 5 time slot. And we've kind of actually worked out that that's a time that they are welcome to have pretty much the entire summer if they need it. Also, we have been in discussions about even them being able to offer swimming lessons up at our facility to kind of help their business. So.
Well,
I didn't know that.
there you go.
Why my wife's name always comes up in maybe she needs a seat here. Thank you, I appreciate that.
I'm going before Tom does. I saw you trying to stand up. Carter Wilkie, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. As been said, obviously times are crazy, difficult right now, and things are super tough. But a couple of things that I've seen the last couple of days that I personally have seen as good things. Where I live, every night I drive right in front of the 3 hotels that we have at the southeast end of town up there. And last night I was actually talking to somebody on the phone, and I noted as I was driving, as I drove past the 2 hotels, there was literally only 1 or 2 empty parking spots in both hotels. They were, I know when that hotel's full because I drive past it every night, and they were pretty full last night. And then also I have some friends, they're not in the city, but they are here in the county, just outside the city. They run an Airbnb in their home, and I'm helping them with a little project. They've asked for my help, and I says, I need 2 or 3 days where nobody's down in that area, and they said, well, we have no openings until August. So she has 1 day available in the month of June that I can go do this project. So, things are not all the doom and gloom that we see. I'm here to say that things are tough. I'm a member of the board of the Chamber of Commerce. I know, very well. And then the other thing that I wanted to say, as a person who owns multiple properties in Cedar City, own a business in Cedar City, as the people that we've elected, I think you're doing a pretty good job. Nobody's perfect. I don't think this group is perfect. No group is going to be perfect. But as a person who pays a lot of taxes, and like I said, I feel pretty confident, and I appreciate the financial situation that our city is in. And, I just appreciate all the hard work that you guys have been doing. And it's probably good to hear from a citizen that you guys are doing an okay job, in my opinion. So that's all.
Thank you.
Now, Tom.
Good evening, Tom Jett. Carter Wilkie was correct. I was going to get up in front of him, but he's faster than me because he's half my age.
Oh, this is why I've missed having y'all here.
I'd like to say that we're able to work out an arrangement to provide the warehousing space needed for Beth Stevenson for the 4th of July Patriot Parade area. We're able to provide about 8 or 10 spaces for them to get the...
Thank you.
You're most welcome. I'm honored to have that they asked me, or that I was asked to be able to have this opportunity. So it's going to be neat. Mm-hmm. It'll be really exciting. And so I know, as Carter intimated a few moments ago, and there's some doom and gloom out there. And there's reason for some doom and gloom, because my mother used to say that it's a depression, it's a recession if your neighbor, if it's a depression, no, there's a recession if your neighbor's unemployed, it's a depression if you're unemployed. And so I understand, what's going on, and I feel for those people, and my family is trying to provide as much as they can to help those families in need right now, along with many other families in this communities are giving to extend an arm to pull these people up and brighten their day a little bit. But I'm just glad that we're back to get together here. I'm glad that we have positive outlooks, many of us. I hope that can rub off on the majority of us and continue to lead this community in a way that we've been led successfully for 100+ years.
Thank you.
So thank you.
And thank you for helping make it possible to have our Independence Day parade and celebrate that. So, all right. And I have no idea how many people are out in the hall, if there are any general public comments. Perfect. Oh, wonderful. You know the drill. As long as you say your name, you're good.
Hey guys, I'm Bobby Ennis. I'm an artist. I am a canary in the coal mine. What I do is the icing on the cake. People do not need icing on their cakes when they don't have cakes, when they don't have meat, when they don't have oatmeal. In the last couple months, my income has plummeted. Now, I'm a very clever squirrel, so I ferret away all my funds as much as I can, but what I do is feast and famine. I'm an artist. I have to. So I'm sensitive to feasts and famines. And I love that Carter Wilkie's trying to cheer you all up. We cannot be in denial. A tsunami of hunger is coming. I want you to be wise about this. Please, please be wise about this. Maybe we can reappropriate some of these funds. Who knows? Maybe emergency legislation. You've got the money in the accounts. Maybe you redistribute that towards like city employees. Maybe you cut some of the fat and start like making sure that you have this money going into like necessary, crucial systems. That would be pretty good, because last year, March, we had a 2% unemployment rate. Iron County's pretty great. Utah is pretty impressive in terms of unemployment. This year, March was listed at 4%. So that's double. That doesn't sound like a lot to us. But we receive our funding from outside. Our money influxes from the outside. My very formerly wealthy employers are now shuttering their doors because the revenue is just not coming, with ports dry and empty and everything kind of repurposed temporarily in global commerce towards, battening down the hatches. Our food is going to get a little imperiled. Utah has great agriculture. Maybe we can head up more like agricultural stuff locally. We can focus our community efforts towards self-sufficiency within Iron County. Iron County has a rich, robust history of strength and being able to adapt to almost impossible changes. All of southern Utah was invaded by a bunch of people. This was wasteland. We reshaped it, right? I think we can do good if we start putting our resources right. Now, we don't have a Brigham Young here. It would be great. We would get to work. But we would maybe benefit from some of those early attitudes of we're going to have to pitch in together if we want to make it through this one, guys. And we're going to need to be very neighborly in order to get it done. If we don't, so that we have good outcomes. All right, that's all.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
What type of artist?
Oh, I create everything. Yeah.
Everything is very broad, my
Everything.
friend.
Everything.
Are you a visual artist?
Like,
No, I mean, like, okay, so this is really a
I'm
discussion for
trying
us
to
to have
help
over dinner
understand, like,
and
what
talk
your
philosophy
like business,
and
like
art
what.
and
So
stuff.
what type of like?
Oh, I design like business cards, T-shirts, brochures, catalogs, banners,
Okay.
trade show booths,
That helps a lot more with the everything category.
family records on brass plates. Not gonna lie, I'm amazing. Engravings. I'm doing all kinds of stuff these days. This is
Okay.
not the place for us to discuss the everything that I'm creating.
Okay, as long as I got some sort of like, this could have gone from like pottery to.
I do pottery. I paint rocks.
Okay,
I do everything.
done.
I am here to create.
Okay, awesome.
Right now, I'm here to be like, guys, I really want us to make it through this. Us. Okay.
Thank you so much.
My name is Brad Green.
Hello, sir.
I can attest that Bobby makes everything.
Everything does
The
not
genealogy on
help.
brass plates he did for me. You know, you log into Family Search and you get like your genealogy so many
Like the
generations
tree.
back, like the tree.
Okay,
He
got
had
it.
that engraven on a brass plate for my parents
Oh,
for
okay.
their anniversary last year. He's made an aluminum cube with my family crest symbols on it. He did a campaign banner for
So
me
we
when
really
I
are,
ran for
like, at
Republican Party
everything.
office. He really,
Okay, fair
mind
enough.
blown. There's no way to encompass everything he does. So the comments that I have, there's a little bit of moderation between the doom and gloom and the positivity that everything's great, because I think there's some of both. As I look at the world, and I have business around the world now, my office in the Philippines opened up Monday. They've allowed everybody from within about 50 kilometers of my office to go to work, which is huge because they've been starving in their huts. They have money, we keep paying them, but they don't have any way to get to the store and buy their rice. So they're celebrating. In New York, California, some of these places that are more metropolitan, they're still very much locked down. There's still a lot of pain. There's still a lot of hurt. That impact to financial markets and supply chains will last possibly the rest of our lives. Utah's a different story. We're a little bit rural in our own nature, and especially Cedar City, we're very rural here, and so we haven't felt a lot of the impact. You know, they talk about, oh, we're going to have a second wave. There was a question in a debate recently, you know, what's going to happen with the second wave? I'm saying we didn't really have a first wave. We maybe had an instance. A wave is, you know, something measurable, a ripple. Yeah. Anyway, the wave is still coming for us. My understanding, I'm not a virologist, my understanding is the way that this thing happens, there's an incubation period, you don't really develop immunities until you've got it, the vaccine may or may not come, we have a flu vaccine, 100,000 people still die every year of the flu. Utah has done an interestingly good job in that we haven't mandated lockdowns. We haven't been arresting people for trying to go about their business. There are some emergency controls in place that are really causing a lot of harm. But we're not to the extent that some of these crazier communities are, and it's really been good for us. That's what I sounded like. So
The recording's working,
it
obviously.
is wonderful. Anyway, so I think that we need to take a look at that and say, hey, look, we did something right, and 8 weeks into this now, we have the fruits of doing something right. We're not starving in our huts. You know, we're kind of carrying on about our business. We now have a lot more knowledge than anybody had 8 weeks ago. When the wave comes to us, we have that knowledge and we can use it. My encouragement is that we continue to open things up while recommending people be careful. We continue to allow people to get back to normal, and we hope that they manage their lives well, because none of us are as smart as all of us. And so we need to let them get back to their lives in the way that they think is best for them and suffer the consequence if they make the wrong choices. Every business owner that I know right now is considering their exit strategy. Every business owner I know now is considering what happens if the economy really goes the way it looks like it will. How do I liquidate inventory? How do I liquidate properties? How do I lay off my employees, and in what order do I do that? Every business owner I know, and I'm a business owner, and I have 150 employees in Iron County, and I'm considering my exit strategy, and I know my partners are. Please, let us be wise. Let's not lock down. Let's not go full crazy. Let's try and keep what semblance of normalcy we can so that we can actually make it out of this stronger instead of weaker. I encourage you to be frugal as possible. If there's funds that are sitting around and need to be used, use them. Don't take any new debt on. Avoid debt like the plague right now, because it is the plague at our doors. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And aren't you glad that you could have these comments in a somewhat normal setting and back here personally.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. There any other? If not, oh, okay.
Caleb Spenlove, local. And I was just thinking about the other day about the times that I was able to walk with Councilman Melling on his walk around the neighborhood. So hopefully those will be able to come back, and I think I'm seeing some fruit from that walk with Tyler Melling in my neighborhood on at the corner of Bramblewood and Northfield. It appears that there is some stuff being redone with the curb so that you can get a stroller up on those. And so I don't know if Tyler has anything to do with that, but I'd like to attribute it to him because I think Tyler does very well at.
I'd like to take the credit, but I don't think the credit belongs to me. That's just people being proactive.
Okay, but I just know that Tyler, he does very well at listening to understand and doesn't just try to respond to what I have to say. And so I just want to throw that out about what I've been seeing in my neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Not seeing anyone else. We will start with our business agenda with item number 1, public hearing to consider an ordinance amending the zone from R-3-M to SHD for several parcels located about 250 south between 300 west and 400 west. Oh, I didn't you were hiding out there.
Yeah, I was hiding out there. Brent Drew with Live at Land and Investment. And do we dare touch the pointer here, or?
Tom Lysold everything this afternoon.
Yeah, we're not clean though.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's see if I can. Okay, so what we are doing
You're
is.
the first person to touch it. You're good as the next person.
Oh, man. Okay, so this is 450 West, this is Dewey Avenue, this is 200 South, right here. This is all of our property that we've assembled there, but 2 parcels. And so this is Founders Hall. This is the big parking lot we've assembled there, and we do own these 2 homes here. The 2 parcels we do not own, the owners have put in with us to go in for the same zoning on their property, and that's Mayfly Properties, that is right here. And then this is an apartment building owned by Southern Utah University. But this SHD also includes this property, which is already SHD, but turning the parking lot into SHD also there so that it all conforms. There's 2 reasons for asking for this large thing. The first one is to make sure that all the property does conform to be SHD from what we've already done, and also a preparatory for a 3rd project, a 3rd building there, which right now under the conditions is not planned to be built at least in the next couple of years or so, but just.
The building you just built, where's that at?
Right here.
That's it, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Brent, I had a
Yes.
question. So why are you not, the parking lots that are R3M around
Yes.
your new building over there?
Yes.
The left?
Oh, this way.
No,
Up.
up,
Oh,
yeah.
Over,
Over.
Oh, here.
other way.
To the left.
Oh, to the left, the other left. Oh, those aren't ours. Those are Southern Utah University's.
Oh, okay, I thought that was the
That's
parking
their
lot
large,
of your
that's their
new
large
building.
parking area right
Okay.
there too. If it was ours, yeah, we'd change it to, no, I'm just
Okay.
kidding. I didn't say that, okay.
Are there any other questions from council?
Well, Brent, I just have a couple of questions, and we've talked about this, so I'm pretty clear on the understanding, but I really have 2 things. Number 1, the parking that is on the south of your current project that you're asking to move to SHD.
Right.
Was that not part of the original proposal when you put this building before the council?
Well, in past, it wasn't. And the reason it wasn't, until recently, whether it was, it was just pointed out to us that in the past, because parking was allowed in all the zones, a lot of the time we did not change the parking. We just left it whatever
Yeah,
zone
but
it
the
was
parking
in.
would have to conform to the zone it was in, wouldn't it?
Well, see, if parking's allowed into, say, if it's allowed in R2 and you build in R3, you would just go ahead and build in the R3, but leave the parking R2 because parking's allowed in R2. So there was no thought in the past to change it to this.
Yeah, but they have different calculations, as you know. I mean, SHD.
Well,
has a
they do,
different-
yeah, they do now and more
Yeah.
recent.
Yeah.
But even with that, and this sounds, I'm not trying, but even with that different calculation, you have to supply that many spaces, no matter what the zoning is.
And
So it
so-
never was an issue to really change the zoning.
Excuse me, I have one more question.
Okay,
I have one more question. Sorry, Councilman Melling, and you're welcome. So the other question I have is, you've stated, and I know you stated in the Planning Commission as well, that the two other owners, and I guess that's the university and then the other private owner, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
You say you have it in writing, but is that, I mean, have we seen that? I mean, I just want to make sure we don't go down the
I
road and we have
submitted
a
it-
problem.
I submitted it with the application
Okay.
to,
So on every zone change where a person comes in and wants to do a zone change that affects somebody else's property, we make them submit a written statement before we allow it through our process.
Ooh, written statements, just like the police department. Thank
And-
you. Thank you. Those are my two questions.
Okay.
Okay.
And just to clarify, I think I understood between the exchange. So the parking requirements of SHD apply to the structures built in SHD. But as long as you supply the parking spaces in adjacent lots regardless of zoning, they still meet the requirements of the SHD zoned
well,
structure.
and I think that's how we always dealt with them in the past.
That is the case?
Right, and
Okay.
then staff researched it a little bit, and it came up on this project right here too, that they just said, well, this is, not the same zone as this up here, and we said, yeah, but there is the required amount of parking there. But they said, well, it'd be just better to make sure that you have this now all in the same zone. So that's kind of what made us say, well, let's do this. Let's maybe do all of it too, because I don't know how many letters I've sent out to the neighbors out here on different zone changes and things we've done, but that would make it just one less time they get one more certified letter from us, so.
We also have some provisions in our ordinance that allow for off-premise parking. Levitt Land did a little bit of that on their project on 200 North and 200 West?
Yeah.
Or 300?
300 West, yeah.
It has some distance requirements that you have to be so close to the project. I don't think it mandates that you're in the same zone, but normally it's just the premise that we're worried about with the parking.
Brenda, the only thing I would maybe say is that when the project that you are considering on that larger portion that faces 200 South,
Yes.
we've got to make sure that the setbacks are appropriate and that the parking's there, because we can't paint that out as a no parking. It already is a no parking area there on 200 South.
Oh, yeah, right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, so, and that would probably, right now, the intention is to put that building right there, and we'd come up with some, there's different thoughts, and again, everything I'm saying is so early. This is
Sure,
not-
I understand. I'm
But,
not,
there may have to be some underground parking and some things
Yeah.
like that provided with it too, so.
thank you.
With the council, are there any other comments, questions? No? Okay, we will open the public hearing on this item if there's anyone that would like to. You can talk.
I was just going to mention that this came before the Planning Commission. Came before the Commission several months ago prior to us closing down meetings and going over Zoom, and they gave it a positive recommendation.
Okay. Seeing no one with the public hearing, we will close the public hearing and move this on to our action agenda. Okay, item number 2, consider a proposed street modification along 800 West between Center Street and 200 South.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, and staff. Tiger Funk with Southern Utah University. I'm here tonight with my colleague Cindy Moxley. Southern Utah University is planning to construct a new academic building on the northeast corner of 200 South and 800 West. The new building will be 3 stories in height, 90,000 square feet, and will be the new home primarily for academic classrooms and offices. SUU has been working with MHT and architects and their sub-consultants to design the modifications that we'll talk about tonight. Before I go any further, let me just clarify the funding for this building, because I know that that's been a question. The project has been funded by the state of Utah. However, the asterisk on that, the funding for the building is currently on hold, pending the outcome of the COVID event and the state's overall economic model. And we expect to have a definitive answer to move forward by July 1st of 2020.
Tiger, would that be just a postponement if it happened, or would it go away?
Our understanding is that the funding is on hold.
Okay.
So it would be, I think a postponement is accurate, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we've received no word at all that it's been pulled completely.
Okay.
Can Tiger finish with his presentation?
I'm just discombobulated on where we're at.
Oh, will you tell him what roads we're on?
I will.
800 and 200.
Yeah, this is.
We have 200 south right here, and this is 800 west. The Centurium is right here. The event center, the America First Event Center, is just off of the map.
All right.
Does that help?
Now I'm with you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Tiger.
Let's see. Also, as a point of clarification, the road modifications that we're going to talk about today will only occur if the project moves forward. If the building, for whatever reason, if the funding is pulled, we will not do these modifications. And because the funding has not been canceled, it's important for us to gain the support of the council in your vote next week, so that we're ready to move forward when the funds are released from the state. So with that, I'm here tonight to request your approval to make modifications to 800 West between 200 South and roughly 100 South. Let's see. So the highlights to the changes that we're looking, or that we're requesting, first of all, these changes do have unanimous approval from the Planning Commission. We've made several modifications to our original plan to meet the needs of various divisions of the city. The overall strategy on 800 West is to slow down traffic and prioritize pedestrian safety. In order to do this, some of the features that we've looked at adding are a couple of different bulb outs in areas here. I'm sorry, I'm not more accurate with the pointer. But these bulb outs basically signal vehicular traffic to slow down. By proposing a center median on 800 West that goes basically from this point north to just beyond this is the pull-out lane in front of the event center. And then also we will enhance this crosswalk right here, which is often used as a crosswalk now, but it's not marked on the road. Anyway, so these strategies are not unlike what Cedar City has implemented out on Main Street, not far from where we are here. Additionally, by adding the center median, it provides a lane separation and helps direct traffic and pedestrian flow in the area. We will enhance ADA access and travel by putting in appropriate ramps, adjusting sidewalk locations, cross slopes. This is ADA parking that will feed over to this new crosswalk here. So it helps significantly the ADA access in the area.
Is the crosswalk lit at all? Is it any type of stop signal type?
It does not have any
Lane,
kind of
okay.
signal device, and it currently, it's really just lit with ambient light in the
Okay.
area from our walkway lights and a couple of city street lights.
Is it raised at all, Tiger, the walkway?
The new
Pedestrian
crosswalk will be raised, yes. And the design, it's just off the image here, but basically this center median and the crosswalk will be raised a total of about 3 inches, and that's a very soft transitional slope to the roadway around it, so it won't serve as an impediment to snow plowing or things like that. The fire department was very interested in being able to, in a southbound direction, turn and come into this drop-off lane. So again, with that soft edge on the median there, it will certainly signal a vehicle if you pull over that, but they can easily get their fire trucks into that area. Let's see.
Am I good with that?
Yeah. These guys worked with them well.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's essentially the summary of what we would like to do. I guess one other final point about the crosswalk and this enhanced experience here is that many of us have been there when large events get out at the event center, and it creates a bit of a bottleneck, and we're confident that this will help improve that problem. It won't solve it, but it will help improve it. So at this time, I could answer any questions.
I know there was discussion in the Planning Commission meeting, and maybe this is a question more for Kit than perhaps yourself, but I know it goes together. There's an irrigation ditch right there at that corner of 200 South and 800 West, and I just want to know how we're going to factor it into the bump out that we're proposing.
Yeah, it's a great question. So the irrigation comes along the north edge of 200 South here and continues down to the west. SUU is working with UDOT in a separate project to put that irrigation underground. You're likely aware that we've already done that up farther to the east on 200 South as it comes down the hill. The irrigation is underground, and we've eliminated that giant ditch that everybody slides into.
Right.
So that project will continue to the west, and we have segments of it planned over the next couple of years that we're
Okay.
working with UDOT on.
Okay.
And with this one, if there is no building funding, project won't happen at all. If the building doesn't get funded, then the project won't happen. You just want the approval from council in case it does.
Yes, and let me be clear, and if I could speak for President Wyatt, this building will come to campus. It's just a matter of time. And you know, we would be underway this September had it not been for the current economic downturn. So, but again, we have very high confidence in speaking with our legislative representatives from this area who have been fierce advocates on this project. This building was funded as part of a very large capital allocation across the state, and it stands in high regard on Capitol Hill. And so, worst case scenario, I would say this would perhaps be put off a year.
Okay.
But it won't be canceled completely.
And I'd like to add as well, for those who maybe follow some of the city business but not Southern Utah University business, one of the key factors in this location was parking. When SUU built the business building where it is, right over a parking lot, it caused a little bit of parking congestion on that side of campus, and I appreciate the university putting this one right near perhaps its least utilized parking lot. And so I hope to see that as that occurs, that it'll relieve some of the parking issues we have near campus.
This is one of the promises SUU made when the business building went in, so thanks for actually locating over here.
You're welcome, and thank you. The other thing we haven't mentioned, but I could talk about here, right down here, there's a small parking lot, and it's shown on an inset up here, but again, I apologize because of the layout of this image, it's difficult to understand, but there's a small parking lot right here, directly across from the multi-purpose building.
On 700 West?
Correct, right on 700 West. And as part of this project, included in the funding that we've been given from the state, those two homes that are just south of that small parking lot are coming down, and we're going to expand the size of that parking lot. We expect to get about another 120 stalls in there. So to the point of parking, we're doing our very best to continue to enhance and create space for our students.
Tiger, I have 2 or 3 more just questions and
Sure.
clarifications. Sorry. The center median, is it just planned to be a concrete median? Is there any landscaping involved in that or anything like that?
Yeah, originally we started out with ideas of putting some shrubbery or plantings out there. Because of the logistics of having water out in the middle of the street and the safety of having people out there caring for, manicuring, whatever, it has evolved into just a concrete median. Some of that was driven too by some of the requests from some of the Cedar City utility public works people. They wanted to be able to park a truck on the northern part of that median. They have a sewer access manhole that needs to be accessed. So anyway, my point is, for a number of reasons, we've migrated to a
How wide
concrete.
is that median planned to be right now?
It's planned to be 7 feet 6 inches wide, 7.5 feet.
And
again, about 3 inches high.
Is there reasoning behind why the median doesn't go all the way through the street to 100? Or Center Street, I should say. Excuse me.
I'm not a traffic engineer, and I think it's is a combination of the real reason for the median is to help control the flow of traffic.
Out of the American.
With some left turns and right turns, and for the sake of this project, and you always have to draw a line around the scope somewhere. But we terminated it where we did for practical reasons. Not to say that it wouldn't have value to go all the way through. I can see that.
And I guess my last question is just, there was discussion, I know, early on, and I believe it might have been even in sketch review, I'm not sure where it was, but that the university was considering taking over the maintenance of that road. Is that still part of the equation? I mean, when our approval for this design, what is that including in the approval process?
Yeah, thank you. It has been talked about on a number of occasions to transfer ownership of 800 West between 200 South and University Boulevard over to the university. And I think there's still a future for that idea. We've kind of backed off of it for a variety of reasons. Frankly, mostly because we're just too busy to tackle that at this moment. But
okay, so that's not part of the proposal that you're presenting?
No, that is not. And that said, I clarified with President Wyatt and Marvin Dodge just last week on this very point, and they said that if the city is interested in doing that we would entertain a proposal. And so at some point in the future, if you want to put that together, we would be receptive to it.
Is that limited to certain roads?
Only the ones that are in good repair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Are there any other
We got a lot of road.
questions? Do you want this to go on the consent or action? Consent?
I think it's fine.
All right. Thank you so much,
Okay,
Tiger.
thank you for your time.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Item number 3, review proposals and cost estimates for a recreation center.
So while Mark's coming up, I'll kind of introduce the subject, and most of the folks here are familiar with what this is. This is the recreation center component on the aquatic center. It also includes a child care proponent, or not proponent.
Component.
Yeah, thank you. So Tom might remember this, but back before 2008, we had a citizens committee that went around and looked around at various different aquatic and rec centers all over Utah to try to get ideas on what we could bring here and what we could do as far as an aquatic center and rec center. In 2008, the city made the conscious decision just to proceed with the aquatic portion and delay building the recreational portion. And that's what we're back today to discuss, is completing that recreational portion, which we started looking at 12 plus years ago. So this is Mark. Mark's the architect who drew, I'm sorry, Mark. Mark's the architect that drew the aquatic center, and we've asked Mark to help us by drawing the rec center and the child care area as well.
You
Good
still
evening.
get to say your name now.
Do I? Okay.
Yes.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. It's good to be here with you. My name is Mark Wilson. I am the architect on this project. And it might be good to just give a little bit of the process that we've been going through as we've been meeting for the past few weeks. It's been our intent to sit down and talk about things, first of all, the needs that this building will fulfill. And we've talked about lots of things with recreation staff and city staff, and have tried to determine the kinds of programming that would be in that building with sporting events and fitness and other things that we're looking at, and which kinds of sports it would accommodate. And so in order to do that, we've had an opportunity to sit down and go through a process of programming all of that and the amount of equipment that would be necessary to stage the kinds of things we need to do in this facility to serve the citizens of Cedar City. And so in order to do that, we've had to look at the space not only of the gymnasium floors, but also of storage spaces and also the fitness areas up above, by looking at the types of fitness equipment and so on that we're looking to serve the citizens with. And therefore we've come up with some plans that fit those needs. And so let's just review those. If we can I have
Kit can open
the
them. You
first plan? Might be better to start with the floor plan, because this is a little bit, there we go. Okay, so it looks like it's cut off on the bottom a little bit there.
Kit, can you make that a little bit smaller so it fits on the screen, please?
Is that possible? Well, we can start talking about it to begin with. We have, there you go, beautiful. So we have 3 full-size gymnasiums in the space, the main space, which is defined by this line here. This line is the existing wall of the aquatic center. And so, and this is the existing lobby where we come up the stairs to go up to the observation deck, which is above the equipment rooms of the pool for the swimming pool. So we're using this lobby, we're using the elevator, we're using the stairs for code purposes, and because of the occupant load, you need to add another second set of stairs. We've designed the gymnasiums to be multifunction. You can see the different lines that are on there. The darker lines, of course, are basketball, and there are the main basketball playing this direction, also cross-court basketball with the side hoops that you can see on each gym. It was important that we accommodate some seating, not a lot, but enough to accommodate a couple of hundred people at each of these events that take place there. So the seating is in between. the gymnasiums, you can see that they are portable bleachers that are back-to-back with each other, and there's a dividing curtain that drops down and goes between the gymnasiums to control the spaces. So each one of them can be divided into 3 separate spaces, and 3 different things can be going on in those spaces. Also, we can accommodate volleyball. This lighter line right there represents a volleyball court. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 volleyball courts that could be going on. So we can do basketball tournaments, we can do volleyball tournaments. One of the other things that we've been talking about is pickleball. Pickleball can be accommodated. That line right there is a pickleball court, and there are 3 of those per gym floor. So that makes 9 pickleball courts. So the city could stage pickleball tournaments, volleyball tournaments, basketball tournaments, host things for the summer games, do all kinds of things in this space. It's also been talked about ways to accommodate other sports, such as baseball, soccer. So indoor soccer could be played easily in the whole space or in divided spaces, which is a very popular thing. There's another game called futsal, which is played with a ball that doesn't bounce quite as much, and it's a very popular game. So those kind of things.
Like a soccer type game?
It's like a soccer, yeah, same rules as soccer,
Okay.
just played with a little bit different ball and different kinds of dimensions.
Okay.
So, okay. This space along here is an observation space that could be used for parents with children, those sorts of things, and also can accommodate viewing of each of the things that are going on in each of these areas. This seating, the portable bleachers, will be stored in the storage space that we have over here. So extended from the gym are storage rooms that go out beyond the gym space. There are entrances to those spaces, overhead door here, so we can accommodate rolling things in and storing them. Those stacks right there represent the bleachers, which is a 4-tier bleacher that is tipped on its back and then stacked together in that storage space. So you can see how that some of this equipment, we don't show all of the equipment obviously, but there's much there that can be stored, and we feel like we have enough storage to accommodate all of the different sports that can take place on that gym floor, as well as tables and chairs, because we feel like as a community space, there's a lot of other things that can be staged. You can rent this out for boutiques, for conventions, for banquets, for all kinds of things, and that will accommodate those kinds of events very well. And there's plenty of storage space, excuse me, for tables and chairs over here in the storage area. So that pretty much takes care of the first floor. We did, from the original look of when we were talking about this with the hockey rink, we've expanded things a little bit in order to accommodate enough run-out space at the end of the basketball courts for safety purposes and to make sure we meet codes on both sides. We have also expanded it a little bit this direction to accommodate the seating in between and make sure that we have enough room to accommodate that with enough space to walk along the gym floors and not have any problems with the players running into spectators. So I think that explains the first floor. Any questions on that?
Yeah, before you move on from this one, just for those of us who aren't too familiar with regulation sizes, what are the dimensions of that entire open area?
The whole open area is 207 feet long, and sheesh, if I could read that, I'd tell you what that is, but I can't. So
You can read that. You're amazing.
Yeah, I can read that.
I don't know exactly, but those are 94-foot long basketball courts, and there's about 12 feet on each side. So
Storage rooms are about 21 feet.
the storage rooms are about 27 feet.
27.
27 feet deep. Yeah. So it's a large footprint But it
Just-
fills up that corner very well. This is the existing multipurpose room and the existing wall along that side. The walkway that comes back here to the hockey rink will be used, and we'll be able to have a second entrance into the facility, so that if the rest of the recreation center was closed, we could accommodate a second entrance there and be able to charge admission or whatever you needed to do, but it controls the space. Also, one other feature that we have here is from the loading dock area that's along the east side of the outdoor pools. There's an area here that's kind of a staging area with 2 sets of overhead doors and a industrial lift that goes from the first floor to the second floor to be able to get equipment up to the mezzanine level, where we have all the aerobics equipment, exercise equipment, and so on. So that's an inexpensive lift. If you're in a hurry, don't ride it. It goes really slow. So,
Mark, you talked about baseball. Are
Yeah.
you talking about batting cages? What are you talking about?
Batting cages can be suspended from the ceiling
Okay.
in a folded way.
But not literally a baseball field. You're
No,
talking
no,
about, okay,
no.
got it.
So
I
batting
assumed
cages.
that. I just want to make sure it was clear.
Yep, any number of batting cages that you determine is good for your use, and to try to find space up there in the ceiling where they fit.
Okay.
And we make sure that we accommodate that, plus the folding of the backboards and everything else, and just take care of looking at that puzzle and trying to figure out how it all fits together.
If you look in the FF&E estimates, there's, I can't remember if we called it drop-down batting or drop-down baseball, but
Okay.
it's in there.
Thank you.
Okay, Kit, can we go to the second floor plan now?
Before you go, does the curtain drop down between the pews?
The curtain drops down right here between the courts. Yeah, and so it's those-
Tom, over here, it's Tyler. Just because we have a basketball court in every church doesn't mean we have pews in this one.
Yeah. I translated that, so, yeah. It's actually a hard vinyl curtain up to about 6 feet, and then it's mesh above that.
It would raise and lower from up top.
Yeah, it's on a,
It's not the, no, it's up and down.
it's a roller, so it rolls up to the ceiling and then rolls back down.
Could you please hit the fit to page button again?
Over.
Okay, so now we're looking above those spaces that we just had before, and this area here is above the seating area that we saw, the observation area. This track extends out over the storage rooms that we looked at. So the overall width from here to here includes all of the basketball plus the storage. The storage line is right along there where you see those columns that would be there to help support the roof. So the roof spans from this to here, and then another set of structural beams that would be lighter that goes the shallower span from here to here. This space is pretty much, it's all constructed out of the same materials that the aquatic center is constructed of, with the same colors, same patterns, so that it looks like it was always there, looks like it was planned from the beginning. It is a very economical building system. It's built with what's called a high R block, which is a thermally infused block that has basically 3 faces. It has the structural cavities, and then it has another face out on the front with a foam insulation insert in it, so that it works as an inside finish, an exterior finish, and an insulation all at once. And it's a very good way to do this in a budget sensitive way.
How long is the track?
The track is about an eighth of a mile, just a little bit more than that.
That's a lot.
So,
And the track, just so we know, it's going to be the material, so wheelchairs, strollers,
absolutely.
all of those, so we don't have the problem that the SUU
Yes.
track has.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not, it doesn't give, it's got a PVC, a thick PVC top. Has a little bit of a cushion underneath that, so that as you're running, you don't get shin splints. It's not a hard surface like a concrete or anything like that. It's good for running, but it also accommodates wheels.
But
So,
it accommodates the other
Yep.
community type.
absolutely.
And what is the width on that?
It's 4 lanes of about 3 feet each, so about 12 feet
So
wide.
plenty of room if a stroller needs to pass a slower stroller.
Yes.
Okay.
Plenty of room. The lanes, generally, as you program this and look at it, you designate some of the lanes as running, some of the lanes as walking, and designate strollers to be in certain lanes so that the runners can easily pass slower pedestrians or strollers as we go around the track. There are fitness areas that have been provided. Fitness is a very important part of this. So all of this area here, those rectangles that are shown are just generic. They don't mean to represent shapes, but they're just a holding place for what might be treadmills and other kinds of aerobic equipment along here. It's the intent to put a frame along here with some audio-visual equipment, as is very important in a fitness area, so that the people who are working out can be distracted from working out. So I guess that's the way it usually works. I'm sure that's part of the FF&E budget. That is not one of the fixed costs, nor is the exercise equipment one of the fixed costs. All of the other things that I've explained so far, with the exception of the bleachers and the athletic equipment, are part of the budget. So the track goes around the perimeter all the way around. The gym wall below is right here. The edge of the track goes to the perimeter of the basketball court. So it's suspended over the edges of the basketball court, and suspended. There's a second floor, a mezzanine floor, that goes over the top of part of the gym and part of the storage rooms.
And can you go through what type of barrier prevents little people
Absolutely.
from falling from the track and their stroller
Okay.
to the gym?
Yes. So there is a rail that goes all the way around here that is 3'6" high, which is the code for a guardrail. And our intent is to make that for economic purposes. We looked at a couple of things. We looked at a glass rail, and we looked at doing a cable rail, where the cables are spaced at about 4 inches apart, and we would do them vertically so that the cables can't be climbed and kids spill themselves over and end up down on the gym floor, which would be horrible. There are also dividing areas where we'll use that same cable system to divide the track from the aerobics area and from the exercise equipment area, which is here. And so there's a barrier there, as well as one around the whole perimeter looking down into the gym. So as a runner or someone exercising on any of this equipment, this will be wide open for view. It'll be a very inviting space. You'll feel like there's a lot of activity going on around you. You'll be able to run on the track and down below you, as well as what's going on in the exercise areas. If you're in this exercise area, you also can look below. One of the features that we've incorporated into this, we've taken out, most of the aquatic center has regular punched windows, and what we mean by that is they're of a fixed size that are about 8 foot wide by 4 feet high. Instead of doing that, we've decided to bring all of the light in along the north side And this is a glass curtain wall, it's called. So just a glass window, like a storefront, that goes all the way from full height, so it's about 12 feet high from the mezzanine floor up, to provide a view out over the lake and all the activities that are going on out there. So that will all be part of the experience as well. These corners will accommodate cross-training type equipment, so that as you're running around the track, you can stop and do some reps on some sort of equipment or another as part of your cross-training as you're working on your fitness. So again, the exits, we have accommodated a convenience restroom here on the mezzanine floor, just a single stall, single use restroom, so that for convenience, you don't have to, if you're a mom with a stroller, you don't have to haul your kids downstairs on the elevator to have them go potty. So, any questions on that second floor?
I just have a question about the first floor and the second floor together. Because it is the brick you spoke about, what are we talking about acoustics and the noise that's created by the basketballs and the...
Yeah, it's a hard surface, and so will the ceiling be a hard surface, because we're looking at an exposed ceiling where you'd have exposed steel joists and a hard steel deck. So we put into the budget acoustic panels that will be placed around the perimeter and can be hung from the ceiling. And we will do an acoustic study as part of the design process to determine the best placement for where those acoustic panels go in order to break up the noise. The important thing that we need to do with that, they don't necessarily absorb sound, but they stop the sound from bouncing around, so you don't have the reverberation taking place in all of these different activities that are going on at the same time.
Will you come up to the microphone just so we can, I know you love that, and say your name just so we can make sure we have
And
you.
Kidder, can we pull the slide up on the first floor? I had a quick question about that first floor.
This one.
So, does this thing work?
I don't know if it works either.
All right. So
Careful,
currently,
but Drew touched one of those.
this right here is where the wall for the current facility is?
Just down below it.
Just down below it. So those multi-purpose rooms that are currently there, will they remain or will they?
Let me show you where those are.
Okay.
Multi-purpose rooms are over here. So as you're thinking about where you enter the lobby, it's over here somewhere.
Oh, okay. I
It's in
thought
the
you said
aquatic
that
center.
other area was the lobby. That's why I was.
Well, this is the secondary lobby that we have that goes out to where
Okay.
the ice rink is now. So you're coming in the lobby of the whole facility, you walk into the hallway right here, heading to the east, and the multi-purpose rooms are along this area. That's the exterior wall, existing, I'm not using the microphone, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're not.
Okay. Thank you. That clears
Okay, so
Does
that's where that's
help
located.
with the orientation?
Yeah, I was totally backwards on where everything was.
Okay.
Quick question. Just Carter Wilkie, quick question. Is there scoreboards built into this on the
Yes.
first floor? Okay.
Yes. Yes, and the scoreboards are a fixed element, and they're part of the construction budget. They're not part of the furniture, fixtures, and equipment budget that we'll be talking
And there
about.
would be scoreboards for each different court.
Yes. Yes. So we've got, no, they're multi-purpose. They'll be programmable so that, and wireless. So there'll be a scoreboard at the end of each of these courts. So you could use it together for a full court, or you could separate this court and use the scoreboard for that one, and use this scoreboard for that one. So, yeah. And that's included in the budget. All right, Kit, can we go to the elevations?
No, not that one. Don't click that. Don't click that. No, don't click that. Just scroll down. Scroll down.
Can you
So-
fit to page, please, Kit? Thank you.
Most of it's there, but so as we're looking along this It's a little bit hard to read because not everything's in the same plane. So as you're sitting in the parking lot and looking east, this is the main entrance to the aquatic center. And those are they're lighter lines because that indicates it's existing. So one of the things that we're going to be adding on these elevations is that we're adding right next to the administrative offices right here, a child care area, and that's shown in these elevations, and we'll show the floor plan for that in just a second. Then as you're looking east again, as we talked about that sidewalk that goes between the lake and the aquatic center, that's where the entrance is that we were talking about. You can see the glass curtain wall poking out, and that is represented here, all along the north side, looking north over the lake. And it would wrap around the corner on the west side, and this is the east elevation. As you're coming in the driveway to get to the lake, it would be just to your left. So, and those indicate the same kinds of patterns and colors that we have seen on the building and all of the other areas. So, and this is the area at the service drive, and those are those overhead doors that I talked about to bring equipment and supplies into the door, with the lift being right here to go up to the second floor.
And so one thing we have heard over and over is windows, gyms don't mix. But these ones are okay because of the fact
Their
they face
orientation.
north,
Yeah,
right?
because of their orientation, there won't be direct sunlight on any of the gym floors. So it'll be a soft light, but it's enough light that it's going to go through the whole space, and it'll be great. So, yeah, it's great that works on a lot of levels. It works to bring a lot of light in, but it also works because that's where the view is out over the lake. So, yeah, it's great.
Mark, on the east elevation, is the roof line similar to the roof line on the existing aquatic center?
Yep. So this is the old aquatic center, and that is the roof line of the gym. So
Okay.
basically, they're the same height.
They'll match, okay, thank you.
Okay, should we move to the child care? Any questions at all on that? This is all concrete masonry, that high R block that we talked about.
Mark, you've got someone behind you that
Oh.
has a question.
You just have to say your name one more time.
Caleb Spenlove.
Yes.
So we've mentioned this high R block. What's your R value of your windows?
Well, the windows will be double insulated, and windows, of course, are not as good an insulator as any kind of solid wall. But if we're lucky, we're going to get about an R8 out of the windows. We'll make them. We'll use the right coatings and so on that. The rest of the facility will be about an R17 on the walls and an R40 in the roof.
We very rarely have wind from the north anyway, so a lot of that.
Yeah, you don't have much wind here at all, from what I've seen.
Well, when we do, it comes from the south, so so that less insulated wall won't be as affected.
Good. So we do have to get natural light into the space, but so we've eliminated doing a bunch of the punched windows that we might put along the sides and just consolidated all the glass in one place. That helps in a lot of ways. The airtight storefront systems that we can do are excellent, and the insulating value is very good. So
When you say storefront systems, is it similar to what we have right out here?
Yep. So it would be an aluminum and glass type system. No, we don't have any skylights on the roof. Yep.
Apparently basketball players don't like that.
So the front lobby, this is the existing entrance to the aquatic center coming off the parking lot, where you're coming in the entrance here, and that's the exit out. This is the rotary room here. This is that entrance door that goes into the pool area. That's the snack bar, existing restrooms along here. And that's the existing multi-purpose room with the offices here. So what we're doing is adding a child care area of about 3,000 square feet right here in that corner. It was planned from the beginning. There is a stub out for sewer there so that we don't have to saw cut the floor or anything. So the space is going to be used by, this lobby is quite large, and when it was originally planned, it was made large to accommodate community events. There was some thought that there would be gatherings that could take place in that lobby area. And so it's been repurposed as we've talked through this. The front desk area has been moved slightly from this direction. It was kind of squared off like that. So it's been moved out into this hallway space to provide a little bit more control as people enter the space. Then the staff can see who's coming in and be able to, swipe their membership cards, count the number of visitors, those sorts of things. So that space will be using a lot of the existing furniture that extends here now, and just repurposing that and relocating it to a different place. All of these spaces are existing. So the thought here in the childcare area, to accommodate about 30 kids, we've got the exact amount by health code of what we need to accommodate those children. They, with the staff, and ages and those things are being determined by the recreation staff. So I don't think it's going to accommodate any young children. Toddlers, yes, but no young children in diapers.
So the thought with the child care area is it's not a daycare. It's not drop your kids and go grocery shopping or anything like that. It's a child care area for folks using the building. Yeah, so
Do you want to come back up to
Chris and Kenny have done a little bit of work on this, and they got a couple models. Have you ever, when you go to a restaurant and they give you a little beeper? There's some of those systems that our staff has investigated that if you drop your kids off and you go to exercise, you would be issued a little beeper. Our folks would watch them, make sure they're playing and enjoying themselves. But if there's a problem, then we beep mom and dad. And mom and dad need to come and
If
take
they
care
start
of the
beating
kid.
another kid up, you get beeped.
Yeah.
You get paged.
You get paged back.
So in your budget, is additional staffing and O&M for this in that budget of $5.5 million that we've been talking about, or is that
So
above?
the budget amount that we're looking at right now is for capital acquisition. So this is for
So no O&M,
so
no
this is
staffing,
for
no.
brick and mortar and
Okay.
and those types of, that's what this is talking about.
Okay.
So as you look at this child care plan, according to code, we need to have 2 restrooms in that space with the 30 kids. One would be juvenile fixtures and the other one adult fixtures. So some of the older kids could use either one. There's a storage area here in the corner, an entry lobby with a control desk here so that the kids can be controlled. They will have armbands and all sorts of things, or whatever kind of system is made to make sure that they get the right kid. Then in addition to that, there's a fenced area outside here, which is fairly inexpensive. I don't know that anything's been budgeted for playground equipment or anything out there at this point. Do you, Paul?
We have.
Okay. But that can be accommodated. So there's a 6-foot-high fence out here and an exit to go out into that space and be able to do outdoor play in the child care area. So,
Because we're talking about this particular area.
Yes.
So in that, talking
You
about
just have to
access.
say your name
I'm
again
sorry,
now.
Dan Kidder.
Stan.
Talking about access control and getting the right kid, is there security cameras set up in this,
We already have security cameras in the building.
in this new area?
Well,
Is
no,
that
because
going to include the
it's not
inclusion?
there yet, but
But there is plans for that?
We're either looking at making the system we have and upgrading it, because we do have video. Sometimes it's not the greatest quality, and that stuff keeps changing rapidly, and the quality keeps improving. But we are going to include video surveillance.
So additionally, in the lobby area, one of the things that has been discussed and we've accommodated here in this space is a soft play area that would be part of the activities here at the recreation center, at the aquatic center, so that people entering could use this soft play area that would be, I guess you could kind of compare it to some of the play areas that you see at some of the restaurants that are around. Hopefully the toys will be picked to accommodate that, where parents can sit and watch their children play. It's not meant to be a place where you drop off your kids and send them in to play. It need to be adult supervised. And then there's additional access out here. We've just added one exit door that will go out into the current basketball area that's out here. And those areas would be open to the public so that they could come and use those spaces. So that's what we're thinking with the child care addition out here, which has been found to help increase the number of passes that you sell for your facilities, because obviously moms with kids need to do something with them, and it has found to be very beneficial. Any questions? Okay, Paul?
As long as you come up to the microphone, you can talk. You just.
Scott had one too.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's
Councilman
fine.
Phillips.
It's fine. I was just going to ask Mark. Well, no. I'm
You
fine.
just have to say your name.
Bruce Hughes. I have 3 questions. We heard 4.5 million. We've heard 5.5 million. We've heard over 6 million. What number are we actually talking about now?
I think that's to come. Mark's not finished. Mark is not finished with his presentation yet.
Be respectful and do not mock people that wear masks.
I'm not, but I
She's
can't
saying that she thinks that's coming. Mark isn't finished with his presentation on the cost breakdowns and things
Okay.
like that.
We're
But
gonna have
I
all
think
of-
it's all varying, but it's hovering around $6 million right now.
And is it correct that we don't have an FF&E budget?
We have that.
We do. Yes, we do
do?
have that.
We're
And
going to
he's-
go through that tonight, too.
Yep.
And do we have an O&M budget?
I think we have some of that.
And he's going to present that too.
No.
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 When will we hear the O&M budget?
When would you like to?
When?
When would you like to?
Well, it should be part of
Granted,
the
it's
whole
not going to be
thing.
tonight.
I'm on the hospital board. We can't do any hard additions at the hospital without an O&M board, O&M budget, and the O&M budget gets approved before the capital project gets approved. So I'm a little confused because we historically have built things without an O&M budget.
Correct.
Do you realize we're not approving the project at this point?
I know, but
So,
this is
so
all part of the
this
whole
is step one.
process.
This is step one. We have a long ways to go before we've got public hearings coming up and everything to inform the public of all of that stuff. I think that's part of the misunderstanding in the community as to this week we're approving the gym and we're going to start building next week. It is not. It's in the tentative budget for us to do. This budget goes through July 1 of next year. So it doesn't mean that because it's in the budget, we have to do it, but we want to be prepared to do if we can move forward, if our community recovers, if economically we can afford it. We haven't approved this project, and we're not even close to it yet.
Part of the rest of the
that.
presentation was to
Respectfully,
give.
Terry, we have approved projects consistently with no O&M budget, and I think that's foolish. So I would ask you that as this whole process goes along, the citizens have a right to know what the O&M budget is as well.
We have been working on that. Kenny's been gathering information from Washington, cities, rec center and whatnot, and they are presently working on putting that together because we have asked for that same thing.
But I think you're correct,
So-
Mr. Hughes. You're absolutely right. O&M is absolutely imperative to what we're trying to do
Well,
here.
you can ask Chris how much he enjoys running the aquatic center without an O&M budget.
And we will,
So part of this whole
He's not gonna
presentation
comment.
tonight was going to be also to talk about how we move forward with this process and to inform the council and the public where the off-ramps are. There's some natural breakpoints in this process that the city can say, never mind.
Well, we need to know the total cost.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying.
That's coming.
all right, you can. You just have to say your name
I
again.
know I do. Dan Kidder. Bruce, you're right. There's no O&M budget that's been discussed, and you're putting the cart before the horse. But the other thing that came up in your recorded conversation from your budget meeting, were you able to dredge up any economic benefit facts to support the need for this thing? So when you go to get I know you know this, because didn't you do mortgages? Didn't you do business loans, Ms. Hartley? When you go to get a business loan, you have to show a P&L, a profit and loss. Where is the revenue?
That is what we're working on.
But you're doing that before you're coming out with a business plan of the needs that you need to fill. And you're talking about child care. Is that going to be paid for, child care? Is that going to be something the city pays for? Is that going to be included in how many passes you plan to sell? You've not addressed any of that. You're already spending the money that you haven't even figured out how you're going to earn.
But we haven't approved to spend any money at all.
I understand you haven't approved the project, and I understand, and I don't know that anybody is under the impression, as you seem to think, that we are too unable to understand this process. We know where this process stands. We're not under the misunderstanding that this is going to be approved tonight, but there are steps that need to be taken and things that have been considered.
Can you wait and let Mr. Wilson finish his,
But I
and
wanted
let
to-
Mr. Bittman finish his?
I wanted to add on to what Bruce said, because I think he's absolutely right. The
And
cart is very
I
much
think
before
we're
the
going
horse.
to address
Your daycare
those.
one, I can give you, so we're looking at, and we have the staff looking at a number of models from all across the state. If you can find something that works really well, why reinvent the wheel?
Oh, I absolutely understand
So
that.
There's the safety wise, all of that, the membership, if you do it based on time, we're going through all of that research right now and pulling data from all the different rec centers and all of that exist to try to figure out which model, and if there isn't a perfect model, because it's shown that a lot of these facilities, if you do have a daycare, it helps, because then you can drop off your little kid and swim or do any of the other number of things. And so we are trying to figure out which model, and if there's not the perfect one out there already, what combination. And so that's one of the things staff is currently, and we've had these conversations a number of times, what makes the most sense for our community, for our economics, and for the safety of the children and to actually make the facility make profits. So that exact thing that you brought up, they're working on nonstop pulling, not trying to reinvent something, but seeing and talking to directors at all different facilities so that we can, because there's always I wish I would have known. So we're asking I wish I would have known. Well, right now, we're at that point, what can you give us in the I wish I would have known and I could do different questions?
So we're designing it without any idea of what the need is or what the capacity is.
That was just for the actual revenue portion that you
Right.
were asking about, what the revenue portion is and how to design that aspect of the programming. That's what they're working on.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's the programming aspect that they're working on right now.
And this portion of the process is really to, the end means for this, the end that we're trying to achieve in these schematic drawings is to come up with a budget and also the size of the facility so that these other things can be looked at, the number of staff that might be required to do it, what kind of staff you might have for the daycare that we proposed. And the reason for these drawings was to be able to do some budget studies and determine what this is going to cost so that that information could be presented to you as a council and to the citizens. So as you're looking at this design that you have just looked at with the floor plans and elevations, which includes a full floor plan for the gym and a mezzanine level, and also the addition of the childcare area, we're looking, as we've gone through this study, with all of the hard costs in the building, we came to a budget figure of about $5.8 million at that point. And that's where we stand on the budget at this point. We've made sure we've included all of the things that could be included, except for the FF&E budget, which Mr. Bittman will probably, or Mr. Nelson will address. So that's where we are with the budget figures. Those are the construction costs that include all of the hard costs, everything that's included in construction, materials and labor, and overhead for the contractor, as well as a contingency in there of about $300,000. So that included in that budget. Yeah. The per foot cost comes out to about right. So square foot cost comes out between $113 and $114 a square foot, which is very good. That's a very economical building. So total square footage is 51,000 square feet. And that includes the child care addition.
Those are low relative to what's costed in the private sector right now.
It is. It's a fairly austere space. There aren't a lot of interior finishes other than the CMU, the concrete masonry that you see. So we've decided to put the money in the activities that take place in the building instead of trying to doll up the building. It's much like the aquatic center. That was built with a budget in mind as well. So it's quite austere in its appearance, but very functional, and we believe that this will be too.
Councilman Phil, did you have a question that we
My question
missed?
doesn't be asked now, but
Okay, I'm sorry.
I would like to hear from either, at some point this evening, I'm hoping we'll hear from either Ken or Jennifer regarding what currently is the situation with our recreation facilities and what we have to job out and what we have to pay for and what we have and what we don't have.
I think it'll have to be Ken. Jen left.
Oh. Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Paul, that's about all I've got. So.
Mark, I had one question. Last summer when we got some estimates, when we were looking at moving the gym standalone or whatnot,
right,
it was about roughly $1 million, a little bit more than $1 million less at that point. Can you tell us what generally, how we got from there to the 5.8?
Yeah, the difference is square footage. Because yeah, we've added storage space, we've added additional space on the mezzanine level to accommodate all of the fitness areas and so on. So the real difference is square footage. It was about the same cost per square foot at that point.
Okay, thank you.
But we've added to the facility.
Can I ask one last question? It has to do with Mark. Carter Wilkie, just one last question, because a lot of people are talking. Just for clarification, the amount that was already approved in hiring him, the 280, that's through the end of construction. That's if you were to take the project all the way till the end. So it's not that all that money has been spent.
No.
Just a little bit, or well,
And
the
not
amount to
all
start.
of it. Not all of it was designed to be spent on. Sorry, Mark. Not all of it was to be paid to Mark. There's some of it that we were going to ask to have some renderings made that would show what the building would look like, and that's included in that budget as well.
I would just say, Mark, I think you're absolutely right. $113 to $115 a square foot is very economical. I know when we built the Beverly Center over there, it was about $375 a square foot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Let's get Kenny or...
Well, Kenny's coming up. Can you go back to that folder and look for the file that says FF and E.
Down, down,
No, the folder at the bottom.
down, down.
Thank you.
Welcome, Kenny. You still have to say your name.
Kenny Nielsen, Leisure Services Director. If I
So-
can answer your question.
Yeah, I'd like to know, based on the history, we've had recreation in this community almost 100 years, give or take. But I've heard from some members of your staff, specifically Jennifer, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but what is our need and how will this facility help solve some of those needs for what we're currently facing?
So currently, our gymnasium space is all rented space since we don't have any ourselves. So we rent from the Iron County School District, and we rent from the academy, their gym space. So our gym space rental is used for both youth and adult volleyball, all the junior jazz basketball, all those events that we have that require gym space. So we're not able to have dodgeball or pickleball or any of those aspects because we don't have the opportunity to program that. So the Iron County School District is under different regulations and liabilities, and so I think there's a misconception out there that we get those anytime we want. And we have to pretty much beg, borrow, and ask to get those. Jen figured that every participant in our junior jazz basketball program got 1 hour of activity a week. So that is all that, with the number of participants that we have and the available gym space, that's all we have. So we're able to use the Canyon View Middle School, Cedar High Middle School, the 3 courts at the Sports Academy, and that is all for games. We are able to practice in a few of the elementaries. We are not able to use Cedar High at all, or Canyon View High. And so
They're booked all the time, is that why, or is it just a
different
liability issue?
activities, they don't want to deal with it. They've got to have janitors in each place.
Sure.
All those kind of logistics that Jen hasn't been in Cedar High School for, I think she said 2 years.
What about the LDS ward houses?
That liability-wise, we can't play in any church facility. So those are never, anything city programmed is allowed in a church facility. Now, you might have a dad get in for a practice, but we can't have any kind of activity in there. So everything we have has to be janitor supervised, so we pay those folks, which they don't want to be there after work. They don't want to be there on Saturdays. They don't want to do those things. So it's becoming very hard and difficult for Jen to do her programming year after year because of all these things that transpire. I mean, the programs continue to grow, but our space shrinks. And so that makes it difficult.
There is a misconception, because we hear that there's all of these gyms between the schools and the churches. And that churches aren't available and not all of the schools are available, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So maybe we can go to Iron Springs for a practice or those kind of things, but it's very limited basis. And so even though there are schools out there, and even elementary schools with a half court, they have stages, they have events, they have things that they do, which, it's no fault of theirs. It's just, that's the world we live in. If it's a field, we have access to those. Those are ours. If it's a gymnasium, we don't own one. That's the concept that, I wish in years past, 15 years ago, we got into Cedar High anytime we wanted. You could go play 4 nights a week if you want. It's just not that way anymore.
So what's happened? Is it an insurance issue?
Not really insurance. It's
Just so many activities?
So many activities. They've got their sports programs.
Yeah.
The usage, they just don't, I don't blame them. They don't want to be there. we were in charge when I used to be over the program. They were okay leaving me in charge of the gym. It's not that way anymore.
And the university, there's places aren't available.
Never use a university
Yeah.
facility.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
So on the screen are the furniture, fixture, and equipment numbers. What staff did is they went, because there's a wide range of fitness equipment. There's a wide range of costs on fitness equipment. So staff went out, you can see up on the top, it says low cost. I'm sorry.
Low cost, low total, high
Low-
cost, high
and
total.
high total, thank you. The high cost equipment on there would be the really, really high end gym equipment. The lower cost equipment, we asked them not to spec out things that are likely to break really quick. We asked them to spec out durable, quality, lower cost equipment. So the budget we would propose and we would ask to seek would be the $308,643 for the low cost.
And that does have your camera system in it.
So it's got, there's some money in there for janitorial supplies. Basically, that's a big old floor polisher to make it easier to keep the gym floor nice. The camera system, fitness equipment. The idea with the fitness equipment is not to have a lot of free weights that are going to compete with private gyms. It's a lot of cable systems. It's a lot of those types of systems that are going to be geared towards not really the most serious dedicated weightlifters. Where you see the soft play, that material was looked at to go in that front lobby area. When Mark did his presentation, he noted an area in there that would be for moms and dads come watch their kids play. That's the budget for that soft. It's smaller equipment that littler kids can play on.
It's okay. So like the malls where they have like the little children's area. That's the
it.
easiest way to explain it. Is like the kids area at a mall.
The line item for the rock wall on there is over in the Rotary Lounge. It's not a full rock climbing wall like you see over at SUU. It's called a bouldering wall, Jim. It's got a soft flooring system, and then the bouldering wall goes halfway to 3/4 of the way up the wall. It's not meant to require additional staff to monitor and use ropes and harnesses with folks. It's meant so it doesn't go high enough that if they fall back onto the soft floor, they're not going to get hurt. I think the rest of the stuff on there is fairly
The
self-explanatory.
rubber flooring is so that you can
Oh.
put tables down or do dance or do
No, that's for the upstairs. That's for the workout area.
the
rubber,
workout area.
yeah,
That
the
one?
rubber flooring is for that upstairs mezzanine level where the
That one's the downstairs
cabled
one.
weight equipment would go. So you don't set it right on the concrete. You got a little rubber flooring underneath that.
What is the expected life of this building if it were to be built? Is this a 50-year building, 40-year building? Okay.
Judging platforms are, that's the platform in volleyball where the officials sit and say good or bad or throw people out. I don't know what volleyball refs do. They point a lot. I don't know what it means.
That helps me. I thought it said juggling platform.
No, that's the whole different.
I couldn't figure out what.
No,
we were doing.
Tom, no. No, Tom.
My focus.
Okay.
So we didn't try to spec out every single pickleball. We didn't try to spec out every single basketball and volleyball. We tried to spec out the larger equipment. We know we'll have to absorb some costs in our operational budgets to purchase basketballs and all that kind of stuff. This year in her this current fiscal year in her operating budget, Jennifer has some money in there, and she's proposed that she goes out and buys the pickleball nets. and some of those things that we can store in anticipation of a gym being built.
Are there additional comments or questions from council?
Yes, I have one, and I guess it's probably going to go back to Ken, maybe Chris, I'm not sure who it would go to, but looking at the floor plan that has been presented by Mr. Wilson, and if that were to be the floor plan that was built, do we know what kind of staffing that is going to take relative to your front desk as it relates to child area, gymnasiums? He rises.
Kenny Nelson Leisure Services. So staffing, when we have the gymnasium aspect attached to our building that is already functioning, the beauty of it is the front desk staff still handles the people that go into the gymnasium. You can walk down the hall and open the door and lower the baskets and do those things. Our projection for O&M is a person to monitor. So that is it's an hourly rate, no more different than our lifeguards or our front desk people. That is the beauty of not a standalone facility. So our custodial that comes in at night, they clean the pool, they clean the basketball court, they clean the hallways, they clean the locker rooms. Those things are already in place. The great thing about a gymnasium, unlike a pool, and I tease Chris about it all the time, he needs up to 11 people anytime we open to guard a pool. I need one in a gym. And so the cost is very different than the aquatic side, just for safety reasons. Those weight machines are not anything that needs to be monitored. As Paul stated, it's a cable system. The footprint is itself. You can't tip weights over. You can't fall over. It's for the novice lifter. It doesn't need collars. It doesn't need spotters. It doesn't need any of those kind of personnel. That's not what that gym equipment is for. That gym equipment is for somebody that's old and feeble like me to get up there, and I can stay there and work out and not hurt myself. And if I tip it over, I can't tip it over, and I can't fall and injure somebody. And so the O&M of personnel is fabulous in a gym.
And in the child care area, I understand the soft play, because I understand that my whole thought process there, as I understand it, it is a place where a young parent, mother, father, whomever, could go there and watch someone, like maybe their 8-year-old is taking a swim lesson and they're there with their 3-year-old and they're just waiting for a half hour or 45 minutes for that swim lesson to get over or something.
Yes.
But it's the other area of the child care that I'm just a little...
The child care, we've looked at Provo Rec, as the mayor stated, and a lot of other facilities that do that. All they have is, it's not a daycare, so it's not a licensed facility. So all we need is seasonal staff, hourly staff. So it's a matter of 2 individuals that is trained in that. Like we've talked about, it's a pager system. We're not looking to handle outrunly kids and diapers and all that stuff. That we're just there to facilitate the child while mom and dad are exercising, swimming, doing whatever they're doing in the facility. So the staffing of that doesn't really make us nervous in the operating aspects either. It's really a great project when you look at it from the staff side, because it is housed with what it is always meant to be with on the building. Now, if you built this standalone, it changes the whole world. But because we're already staffed for a lot of the aspects that we currently are running anyway, it really helps us out in that aspect.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just some off-ramps as we, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Phillips had asked a question, and I never did catch the answer to that, on the lifespan of the building.
I'm sorry?
The lifespan of the building.
Oh, he said between 40 and 50 years.
Okay.
Correct? I don't want to speak for you, but yeah.
Okay.
So the process going forward, we presented the final renderings tonight. What I would come back and ask you for next week is a vote to allow staff to go out and secure funding. Our initial approach to securing funding would be to approach the CIB, the Community Impact Board, and look for funding from them. In the meantime, while we're going through this process, we'll have a clearer picture of our fiscal year-end capital accounts. So we'll know better what we feel comfortable recommending to the council that we ask to bond for, and what we feel comfortable to the council that we recommend coming out of our capital accounts. Now, we don't know that today because our fiscal year hasn't ended and we haven't closed out our fiscal year. So we got to finish the fiscal year to figure that out.
When is that in July?
June 30th.
June 30th.
And Jason has guaranteed me that by July 1st, he will have it all reconciled.
I just hope he's as dynamic a speaker when he speaks.
So that's what we'll ask for next week. We'll also ask for your blessing to have Mark go ahead and pull the trigger on getting some of those nice, pretty renderings drawn up so that we can use those to show people what we intend to build. So that's one. That's an off-ramp. If you guys want to pull the plug then, you can pull the plug then and we can stop. The next natural point in that would be if we secure funding through CIB or any other bonding agency, we need to come back to the council and ask for what's called a parameters resolution. The purpose of the parameters resolution is to get the elected body to approve your general parameters on the bond. How much, how long, what kind of interest rate, what kind of repayment, are they callable, are they not callable, those basic things. That's the second natural point where the council could say, let's hold off, let's not do it.
And this is very similar to, this is the same process we used for the animal shelter.
Same thing we did on the animal shelter.
So if you remember how that kind of worked.
The next natural off-ramp would be, assuming that we get past those first two off-ramps, the next natural off-ramp would be when we put it out for bid to bring a general contractor on board to build the building. We would come back to the council to ask the council to approve the award of a general contractor. At that point, again, the council could say yay or nay on proceeding. Now, the benefit that I see of going through CIB for the Community Impact Board for the financing is if we secured the financing and later chose to not proceed with the building, we could go back to CIB and in essence, and this isn't what it's called technically, but we could cancel the financing arrangement. Community Impact Board isn't like a bank that's going to come after us because they thought they were going to get certain return. The Community Impact Board is set up to lend that money to communities to do projects. They're very easy to work with as far as municipalities and counties and special service districts goes. They facilitate projects all the time. If we were to decline the funding at a later time, they would simply cancel the funding and find another project to use that funding to promote. So those are three natural. Go ahead, Tom.
Could you explain, I know Community Impact Board, could you explain to the people in the audience that may not be familiar with the term, who that board is?
So it's a board appointed by the state. They receive revenue from, they have two main sources of revenue. Three. One is mining lease revenue. The other is repayment of loans. And the third is they're very active in moving, what's this, Heidi's funding?
Housing?
Yeah.
The CBD.
CBDG, Community Development Block Grants. They're very active with Community Development Block Grants. So, yeah. So that's their whole purpose. They have a large fund. Occasionally they'll make grants, but the last time we went to them and asked for a grant, they basically told us Cedar City's too prosperous for a grant. We're not granting you any money, but we'll be happy to loan you some.
You're not a mining.
And you're not a mining town. So, anyway.
Timeline.
Come back.
So the CIB application would be due, the CIB process takes a little while as well, but the application's due the middle of next month.
That has to be put on the budget before that can be received.
Well, we would ask to budget the 6.2. We're going to ask to put that in the tentative budget.
You're going to do that next week.
Yeah, we're going to ask the council to vote on the tentative budget. So.
But
the CIB financing would come, they have a due date for the application in June, they have a meeting in July, that's where we'd go before their board and explain to them what we want to do and why we want the loan.
So in your timeline of steps, where is the step where this is put on the ballot for the people to decide if they want to do this?
If the council so chooses to put it on the ballot, that's up to them. That has not been my direction.
So, okay. Yes.
I had a comment before we open it to public comments. Is that where you were going to go next?
Well, we've
Or-
kind of been doing, this one, there is a public hearing, and if you didn't notice, I haven't actually stopped a public comment
Right.
yet.
So I'd just like to put my thoughts on the record. We were talking about off-ramps, and I met with the mayor and city administration a couple of weeks ago and expressed these thoughts, and then I posted a statement on Monday, and I'd just like to put them on the record now, and then I don't need to talk about my off-ramps again anywhere else on the
Email
process.
this to
And yes,
Renan.
I've got this written, so I'll email that to Renan. So on March 10th, in a different era, I expressed my support of obtaining the engineered plans for the proposed MAC Center and stated my reasons and criteria for support going forward. The project architect has come to speak to the city council and reviewed the plans. Almost 2 weeks ago, I met with our mayor and city administration to discuss the preliminary drawings and cost estimates, and I told them at the time that while it will be a nice facility, I cannot support it at the price point discussed. Nonetheless, I expressed my willingness to raise private funds for the soft play area equipment for young children that will be open to the public without any cost to the young families using it. Other than cost, a few other factors also influenced my decision and continue to do so. Part of my desire to solicit these or state these reasons is to solicit new information to help me ensure my decisions well informed. In March, I stated that I was still largely in the dark about specific amenities, market demand, cost, admission, and other details concerning the center. Many of these details still need to be worked out, and I'll continue to work to ensure the amenities provided interfere with the private sector amenities as little as possible. And I'll continue to ask the following questions along the way. What is the cost per child served? Are we competing with private business, or at least taking mitigating steps so we're serving a different client base even if we provide similar amenities? Is it servicing the people who really need it, need the service? In other words, are we subsidizing something that well-to-do families will pay out of pocket anyway? Or are we providing a place for kids to play whose parents do not have resources as an alternative to being stuck at home? We all know what being stuck at home is like now. While I have to withdraw my support at this time, I'll continue to work as stated in March to ensure that costs, private sector competition, and access remain at the forefront of the discussion. Several other factors influenced my decision, and I haven't included all of those details to better allow the public and my fellow council members to provide more input, and I'll discuss some of those other factors maybe in the next week or so as we get more information. And then if you do have information or contrary opinions, please let me know so I can hear those out and make sure I'm making the decisions I need to make. Thank you.
Thank you. And so with this, it will go on the action agenda for next week, and we will proceed that way. Okay? Okay, we'll move to the staff portion. Didn't Natasha make it?
I texted her. Natasha, are you out there?
Ah, there she is. Okay, staff portion, item number 4, consider a resolution
Thanks, Mark.
amending the city's personnel policy. Thank you so much, Mark.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, Natasha Hershey, Human Resources. So we just have a few proposed changes to the personnel policy, and I'll just briefly go through those.
In Chapter 2, we're changing just some language that was based from Utah Risk Management. There are one of our insurance companies, and they have just suggested that we change the light duty to transitional. And temporary transitional duty, it's just a more correct way to define.
Is that just the politically correct way now that we talk about pregnancy?
That is how we're going to be
We've tried to
politically
figure out
correct.
if there's any substance to the change, and it doesn't look like there's a lot of substance to it.
Okay.
So-
But it does count on our evaluation from IRMA, which helps set our rates, so it's
Okay.
cheap points.
So that's our recommendation, to be politically correct. Chapter 4 is employment status, and basically we're just putting some language into the policy that we already do, but we want to put it in writing. So it's just defining that an employee must provide service to be considered a full-time employee. And then we're just changing our regular part-time. We've kind of phased those out over the years. We only have one position that's currently in that, and they work 25 hours, so we're just changing that to be more in line with what we currently do.
And it is less than 30. It can't be 30.
30 hours or more, they get health insurance
30
under
hours
the
or more.
Affordable Care Act. So, and like I said, we've phased those out since the Affordable Care Act came, so we don't, if they're benefited positions with retirement and things like that, they just don't qualify for health
Sure.
insurance.
Sure.
And then Chapter 8, on the benefits, we're just defining when an employee is eligible to accrue leave, and so just making that clear in our policy. Like I said, we already operate the way the language is in the personnel policy. We're just putting it in writing. And then the last change is for Chapter 10 under the grievance and appeal procedure. It just allows the city manager, if he needs to, assign a designee to hear appeals if that ever arises where he might not. Sometimes he's involved more into personnel issues, and he might at one point in time decide he needs to assign somebody else to hear an appeal.
So everybody that gets in a situation where there's a serious employment action where they might lose money or employment or a serious suspension, they have their department heads make that initial decision, but they all have an appeal. Years ago, that appeal used to go to the city council, and we changed that. I don't think the council was, I don't think they were comfortable doing it.
It
And
was
that's-
every write-up or evaluation or whatever, you can appeal any decision that's made.
So they changed it to move it to the city manager. The problem with the city manager's office is frequently, before that employee gets to a point where they're in bad trouble, the city manager's office knows about a lot of the stuff anyway. So the concern is to give them an independent review, somebody that hasn't formed an opinion already. That's what this is designed to do. If I get to the point where I think I've already made up my mind, I'm going to ask somebody else to do it so that the employee has a fresh face and an independent review.
Any questions?
One comment would be, does the employee get to choose or have any choice kind of in who hears the appeal or that appeal process? Could you explain that to me a little bit more?
I'm sorry, go ahead. No.
So under the grievance and appeal procedures, it defines it, so you would kind of go up the chain. So if in departments where they have a division head, they would, the division head would do the discipline, then it goes up to the department head, then they could go from the department head to the city manager. So it's kind of a chain, not really deciding if they were in the police department, if they were to go through a board, they do have some say on who sits on that board, but the police department is the only one where they actually have an option of putting forth. But they could bring somebody in even to the appeals process. They could bring somebody in to
we've had folks bring in their attorneys, their pastor, their spouse,
community members. So I mean, you could bring anybody you wanted into
Is your
that,
office involved
that
in
process.
these, Natasha?
If they're just appealing, a major discipline, I would be in the discipline part of it, but if they're appealing it, then it goes straight to the city manager. And if they don't like what the city manager says, then they could come to the council. But I'm
So-
involved in the actual, probably the decision that's making, that they're probably appealing.
And they do have that option, even though it's, I guess, not the default or whatever anymore. They do have the option if they feel that they'll have a better shake at the council or whatever, they have that option.
Yeah, so, and we've brought in past years, we've had employees that had decisions that went through the whole process and they didn't like what happened and they've come to the council.
Okay.
Every decision that staff makes, if the public doesn't like it, they can come to you guys.
Okay.
Are there any other comments or questions? And this will go on the action agenda, obviously, where it's a resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. All right. Item number 5, consider resolution authorizing the city to pick up contributions to the Tier 2 Public Safety Utah Retirement System.
Natasha, you might want to stick around
Natasha.
for this.
Come back. This is Darren's retirement presentation.
She might have to back me up. So thank you, Mayor. Darren Adams, Police Department. I'll be brief, but in 2011, the legislature, in some infinite wisdom, slashed the retirement system. It was 20 years at 50% when we first entered back in the day, and they felt like they could save money by slashing that and causing or requiring public safety to work 25 years at 37.5%. So that's had an adverse effect on recruiting since 2011. They took a big swing a couple of years ago in the 2018 legislative session to correct that, to put it back to 25 years at 50%, not where we used to be, but close. And so SB 56, and I'll just read this real quickly, is the Public Safety and Firefighter Tier 2 Retirement Amendments that passed the legislative session this past session. Goes into effect July 1st. Part of the bill provides that funds in the new Public Safety and Firefighter Tier 2 Retirement Benefits Restricted Account shall be used to fund state agency costs associated with the employer pickup for employees that are members of the new Public Safety and Firefighter Tier 2 Retirement System. So essentially, the bill requires a 4.27% increase for Tier 2 to get employees moving forward up to that 25 for 50%. We still have a gap for those employees hired post-11 to last year, and that'll have to be fixed at the legislative level at some point. We've been assured that it will, but for now, the bill requires that municipalities pick up the 2% with the 2.27% falling to the member. I've been in discussions with Mr. Bittman for several months, asking if the city would consider picking up that additional 2.27 for the employees so that burden does not fall to them. We have 23 police officers in Tier 2 and then 1 firefighter in Tier 2. So that is the resolution. 23.
23.
So the proposal is for the city to pick up the entire bill. The cost that you saw published in our budget material was that was a whiff. That was a bad estimate. The cost is substantially lower than that. And it's in the current budget. Natasha, do you know what the cost is off your, or approximately the cost?
It's like $40,000.
So that's the ballpark of the cost
And
to the
that's
city.
corrected, that's in our working budget now, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
What line item does that fall on? Because I tried to go find what's it named in the budget.
It's incorporated in the personnel line items for the police
In the police
department and the fire department.
Oh, okay,
So
so
it's not
buried
called
in
out,
there.
it's
Okay.
not called out specifically,
Okay.
but
thank
it
you.
is an increased cost.
Any questions?
Will you give Renan the stuff you read too, so she
Yeah,
doesn't have to
absolutely.
type it?
I'll walk right on over.
I know, but I can just get it for you right now. All right. Thank you, Chief. This will go on the action agenda. Okay. Item number 6, consider a resolution adopting the 2020-2021 tentative budget.
Hey, before Jason goes, we had a lot of the public in here a minute ago requesting that we budget funds for police and fire and public safety. I wanted to highlight that part of the tentative budget, there is money set aside in there for the fire department to increase wages to the volunteers.
Right.
There is money set aside in there for some capital requests from the fire department. We didn't fund them all, but we funded some of them. There's money set aside in there for the largest chunk of police vehicles that I can remember being purchased in the last 17 years. There's a dozen vehicles being funded in this budget. There's money set aside in there to increase the wages of all the full-time police and fire, as well as the rest of the city, to try to bring us up to date with current wage studies, to put us in a market position where we're kind of a leader position in Iron County, to keep us in a market position that we can be competitive with other entities throughout the state. Now, we're never going to, I keep telling Darren this, we're never going to hit Unified's pay rate in Salt Lake City. We're never going to hit,
But we're hopefully never going to hit Unified's.
we're never going to hit
rate.
Unified's crime rate either, but, so we do have money in for public safety. We do have money in for those employees. And that stands apart from the gym. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jason.
Jason talks.
I'm gonna try. Hope I don't mumble.
You're in the spotlight, buddy.
Yeah, I really am here. Okay.
Maybe, would it make a difference if you close that one and open the other one?
You can't keep them both closed.
No, I say, would it make any
Okay.
difference for
It's
him,
fine.
though?
Oh, you got that.
Yeah.
As long as you don't have them both closed. Okay, there.
Okay. So, budget process. So we've, in earlier meetings, we've presented to council a mayor's tentative budget, which is basically a blueprint on what we intend to do for our fiscal 2021 budget. So we'll do a resolution for this tentative, and then June 3rd is when I will bring council a final version of the mayor's budget. There'll be public hearings and a final vote the following week. So this tentative budget, we can change any part of it by we, staff or council, mayor. I will inform you at each point if we do make changes. So also, I specifically want to point out, Councilman Melling said he couldn't support the gymnasium. So I have in the Aquatic Center Construction Fund, Fund 41, I have a line item for bond proceeds for 5.6 million, and then capital outlay for building of 5.6 million. So he would vote against this tentative budget based on the earlier comments. So
May I interject there? As far as the budget, just with a couple items, I'll probably just note an objection, but otherwise approve, because I do appreciate a lot of the other measures in this budget.
understood, but this is a live document. So as long as that item is in there and this gets approved, staff's authorized to move forward on what we talked about earlier, pursuing funding and building a gymnasium, if this makes it all the way through final budget. And then, of course, we have procedures, as Paul mentioned, but
All of that.
anyway, so if
But
there's...
basically, you can't
Can't
object to
vote-
a line item.
Correct, you
And
have to
that's-
We
adopt...
don't vote on each line
We
item.
do.
of the
Right,
budget.
Oh, my-
exactly,
Adopt this whole
exactly, and that's
document.
why,
Yes, no,
right,
but,
and that's,
and this is, part of it, this is your first
Right.
budget process. So, I mean,
Right.
part of that's the education on how it
exactly, and that's why I fully realize the ramifications there. I just, I also don't feel comfortable voting no
Voting
on a
no.
budget that has some of the key things that I feel strongly should be kept in there.
Okay,
spectacular. We just wanted to let you know that you
Yes.
can't line item
Right,
no.
right. I just want them noted for the record,
Perfect.
but realizing, yes, I understand that.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, yeah, this tentative budget, you're voting, we're at least going to spend these funds as outlined to this point, and we will make some changes. Specifically, the TRT fund, we're going to redo the budget there for transit room tax before final adoption, and any other things that need to be changed between now and then. This tentative version is a live document, but it's also a draft.
I'm going to ask Jason to change the proposed budget for the gyms from whatever's in there now to 6.2, because that's the number we know we have.
May I make a comment to the other council about the TRT question that I asked you earlier?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like I say, I will make any changes collectively that the
I have a
elected
couple
body
of
wants.
thoughts too on different budget things.
It's not a line item in the budget that's identified, but normally we give the Shakespearean Festival and the Utah Summer Games a donation out of our TRT funds. While we don't know exactly at this point what those TRT funds are going to be, I was contacted by the director of the Summer Games, and he has asked if there's any way that we can consider funding any part of that $30,000 that we normally have given them. They're trying to keep their operations intact, and they fully fund their own budget with donations. The university doesn't fund that. They have 3 full-time employees and 2 part-time. One is just seasonal, but the other part-time works year-round, and they're worried about their operation dismantling and being able to move forward with the games next year. And I know we had discussed that if they're not providing heads and beds and in the restaurants and whatnot, that we felt like maybe we couldn't fund that. Jason indicated that we do have a fund balance in the TRT fund of a little bit of money that if we wanted to consider, and I would maybe ask even if that we would give them 15 or 20,000 towards that, but we also may want to consider Shakespeare Festival is in the same boat trying to maintain, and I don't know what my fellow councilmen feel about that.
Well, there's no question that they've been hit as hard. I mean, canceling the seasons and the activities of both those events, while it will certainly do devastation to the hotels and motels and restaurants, it devastates them as well. I know Shakespeare is projecting somewhere around a $2 million deficit. And I don't know how they're going to make that up, season or no season. So I think it's only appropriate that if we do that we do need to provide some funding on the other side as well, because I'm sure that they're the same way. They are under the office of the university, but they have to raise all their own budget through ticket sales and donations. So if we did something there, we'd have to do something, I believe, for the other entity, even though it might be a smaller amount to both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I was going to note that Shakespeare normally comes from a RAP tax contribution as well. The RAP tax might be more problematic because it has a lot more rules drafted in our ordinance as to how we can disperse those funds and how they have to show an accounting of how they've spent them.
Yeah, but they will.
So that would be.
But they will expend those funds, and they can show that before next July 1.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it's a hurdle for Shakespeare to cross. It's
Right.
They've got to be able to come and justify to those RAP tax boards that they can actually use that money. This TRT donation is something more, with a lot less hurdles for Shakespeare to jump.
Yeah.
I would just kind of where my mind's at on this. TRT is something that, we tax an industry as a way to help that industry. So we raise their cost in order to help them. And I think one of the reasons we were able to implement it is that promise that this will only be used to put heads in beds. And so I think I have no problem with earmarking some of those funds for those organizations, but I would, in order to feel comfortable releasing them, I would need to see some kind of imminent plan to partially reopen, run some kind of program, and bring some heads into beds. Otherwise, we're not fulfilling the promise to those who are collecting those funds on our behalf.
In contrast to your feelings about that, I think making that donation is an investment in the future of putting heads in beds. And I support making some contribution to both of those that are going to be so hard hit, so that we're providing a pathway into the future. I don't think it's a broken promise to try and help them when they're down and out and most in need. So I disagree in that context. I think that they are a vital part of this community, both.
Right.
And whatever we can do to help them just make it through, right, and be in a position to be a vital force in the future, I think is justifiable.
Okay, friends, in
Sorry.
the tentative budget, there would be 15,000 to each instead of the 30,000.
Could I ask one question as well? Do we have an option to, whether in pro rata share or something, remit some of those collections back to the businesses that are paying them? Because those businesses are hurting too.
They're being paid by the.
Well, that's, but that's.
Right.
I don't.
Well, but they're
That's a state law,
hotels
isn't it?
collecting
Isn't the
it.
transit
Yeah,
room
the-
tax, isn't it federal, state law?
So the transient room tax under the state tax code, we can use transient room tax for any general fund purpose.
Okay.
Cedar City Corporation has an adopted ordinance that says we're going to restrict the use of those funds. So we put more restrictions on those funds than what the state puts. In answer to your question, it would be a process similar to the city donating money to the Chamber of Commerce for some sort of relief effort. For us to turn around and give tax money back to specific businesses, we would have to go through that same thing. We'd have to show a study showing how it's going to be a benefit. We'd have to hold public hearings. We'd have to budget money. That would be the same type of process.
And it would be a little bit difficult because that is the account that we use to fund the event director
Right.
to
Right.
put on, to help bring these tournaments that are here right now and do all of those other things that we're trying to do to bring heads to beds. So we use that to fund his salary to justify, essentially, it's the eat what you kill mentality. And so it would be a little bit difficult because that's that funding source.
And that makes sense. I guess what I had in mind, and maybe we'd need to look at our TRT collections over the, whatever reports are available. Something I had in mind would be something similar to what Councilman Isom had stated, and Councilwoman Hartley had stated. But with if there is any excess funding, if it's significant enough to make an impact on the businesses that are paying that, because they're hurting bad too with these closures, and it's hard to say, well, we know you're hurting, and we're giving the money that you've brought to town to these organizations that, through no fault of their own, just are not helping you out this year. And so, but perhaps outside of the meeting, I'll check with Jason and yourself
We can talk about that.
and look into that a little more closely, see if there's any feasibility.
Our internal ordinance says that part of the money will go to the two large.
Right.
Some of the large.
I understand that.
Councilman Mellon,
And it's not a significant amount of money.
I'm sorry, I'd like to just, I'm afraid I have to differ a little bit with you on this, and please forgive me, but, and I certainly don't want to get into an issue with the Lodging Association, but the Marriott Hotel didn't bring people here. it was a Little League tournament, or it was a business trip, or it was a speaker at the university, or whatever it was. And their business is charged with collecting a certain amount of tax for what they provide. So I would just differ with you. I don't think they brought the people here. So that was just my own comment.
So, anyways, back to, unless there are any other comments, do you have anything else? Good, sir?
I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with what I've outlined in terms of
Well,
this
I have a-
process and what I'm
I have a couple
asking
of
you to
things.
approve. A few more things.
Yeah, I have a couple of things.
question.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Ron.
Apparently, yeah, okay, I thought we were, okay, yes. Councilman Adams.
I'm just curious, how are we gonna sell this to our public that we're contributing money to events that have been canceled? That are not gonna happen?
And I can answer that. If the events are, excuse me.
Tom Jett, if the events aren't here next year, we're going to be in bigger trouble than we are this year. And that's,
That's how I feel about it. If they
It's-
dismantle and those people go get other jobs and we have to recreate a summer games office and personnel, we'll be way behind than if
That's
we
my
can.
whole point.
And
is
I
looking
would,
to the
Going
future and
forward.
Making an investment.
I would assume that they would spend the money that's allocated during the fiscal year for expenses related to putting on next year's events. I think both organizations would be spending the money towards gearing up for all the expenses and everything for next year's events as well.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to speak for the Shakespeare Festival, but I have spoken to a couple of individuals over there, and I don't know if it'll happen. But they are discussing the possibility of maybe trying to do something in October, November, and December because they had to cancel. Now, I don't know if that'll happen, and they've never done it before, but they are talking about it. But none of this we've ever done before, so, I think it's a valid point, and I think we will get questions to that end, I'm sure. I'm sure we will. But they're like all businesses on our main street. They're just a different kind of business. They're hurting. And they actually had to, in essence, close their business and hopefully reopen it a year from now. I mean, that's kind of it in essence.
Or are we still working on the local business thing?
I think
Yeah,
we
so
are.
we published the public hearing notices yesterday?
It's
Yeah,
in the paper today.
okay. So this would be on your council agenda
I'll read the paper.
in June?
I know.
June, yeah.
I literally love that you just
I read the
said that
paper
you
every
read
morning.
the paper.
So I have two other things I'd like to talk relative to the tentative budget, and
Yes.
I would like us to consider, and again, I recognize we have to make sure that this is doable, okay? And so I rely on staff to help me understand this. I would like us to consider adjusting the budget up $4,000 additional dollars for the Iron County Care and Share, because I think more than ever they're going to need it next year, and I think that they have proven that they are a service to our community in so many ways. And then the other one I'd like to bring up is maybe more of a discussion, because I'd like to know how my other council members feel about this. I've thought about this a lot and gone back and forth on it, but I'd like us to consider the possibility of adding an additional $50,000 to the budget for the ice rink relocation, making the total $150,000 rather than $100,000. And I really would like to know how the people feel about it.
I will tell you, I've had discussions with Carrie Fain,
Uh-huh.
face to face, and we've talked it through. And I said, you need to provide me with a budget.
I think that's fair.
You need to let me know what it is that you require to relocate. I mean,
Right,
100,000 is okay, 150,000.
right. But what's it going to be used for, and what are the costs?
That's better, but I want to know what it's going to cost.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And so I don't know that we need to move the meter on that
Maybe we don't. And maybe I just put it out there for discussion that,
until two things happen. One, they have a budget,
okay,
and two, they have a commitment from the Staleys to be able to use that equipment.
yeah,
Because if either of those are out of
Right.
sync, all bets are off.
Yeah, because they don't have the equipment. Sure. I think that's fair. I think it's fair.
And I would agree with Councilman Phillips. As long as we have those items that you had stated, Councilman Isom, I would be inclined to adjust that budget upward. I think when I had given my rough upward number, it was a little bit higher than that, and so much more than that, then I wouldn't be comfortable without some kind of citizen vote. But I do think just with the costs associated with especially the power needs, I would be comfortable with something like that as well, as long as we have the budget and the agreement.
So can I ask a question? So based on you wanting those two items, do you want this, your minimum standard? Would you like this change in the tentative budget, or should we wait until
I think we're fine to push it.
till it goes to the public hearing, the real budget? I mean, we can still make changes between
but I'm-
now and June 3rd.
I would be fine with that myself, and so just as long as it's on the
Would you
table
rather
for
have
possible
good-
discussion.
Good, sir.
Consensus from the council is you would like the mayor to increase that from 100,000 to 150,000? Is that what?
Well,
No, I don't think that's what they're saying.
Not until they meet the
Yeah,
parameters.
contingent on a budget and
and a
written,
commitment of
some
the
kind
use of
commitment.
equipment and
Right.
things, so.
So
Right, we don't own any ice stuff.
That's correct.
So,
Ice stuff.
okay, so
So
do we want to leave it at 100,
in
continue
the
to
tentative
work
budget,
with?
I would suggest we leave it at 100,000 with the understanding that it could move forward in the final budget if we get some information.
I agree with that.
That's not really a motion,
So
that's
for
just
right, yeah,
discussion.
I mean, none of this is, nothing can be motion, nothing is
Right.
voted on today. But, so, okay, that just helps. So the only change, okay, that helps, thank you. Perfect. And you'll
That's-
continue to work with Carrie
Yes. Yeah.
on
I'm
those,
the one guy that continues to hope that project can.
that project down there
I'm
would
with
be
you, buddy. I've met with her
spectacular.
too, but you're the business guy.
But I want to see some things.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think you're right.
Then if you'll continue to work with Carrie on those items, then bring back the information and we can reevaluate that number. Okay?
Now, just a question. Scott's proposal for women's crisis? No, it was Karen Share. Oh, Karen Share.
The Karen share.
I thought
Okay.
you said women's crisis.
No,
I did, I said
last
Iron
year,
Chair.
the Karen Chair was the Children's Justice Center, and the Canyon Creek Services
Right.
got moved to $10,000. The Karen Chair did not, because they had not requested anything like that and had not spoken with me.
okay.
They still have not spoken with me or requested anything, but Scott feels,
I do.
Well, we need
I
to.
spend a lot of time there, and I work with
Yes.
Peggy a lot, and they have a real need, and so I'm just requesting it.
You
When-
need to teach her to sell.
We need to keep those three in line together. They
So-
all go hand in hand.
that would put them all at the same amount.
Yeah, I would fully
Which
support
reminds
that.
me, when we had those special community funds, the Family Support
She
Center.
never has
She never came.
contacted
But she
me,
never
has
came-
never followed up, has never
I asked her
reached.
to, too.
Yeah, she has never reached
Okay.
out to me, and so there's a part where
No,
chasing people down.
Oh, agreed.
So, yeah, I mean, we gave her the timeline, the exact all of that, but she has never contacted me. I don't know if their funding situation has changed with grants, with whatever, so. Okay, so are we good now with, do you have other questions?
So just to clarify, so we're changing the Karen Share contribution from 6 to 10,000. We're gonna retool the TRT budget, but we're gonna leave 15,000 for Shakespeare and 15,000 for summer games, total of 30,000.
in the
There.
tentative budget, yes.
Tentative. And then we're gonna change the rec center from 5.6 to 6.2.
Yes.
Is that everything?
You got it.
Okay.
Okay, and that will go on the action agenda. And with that, he left.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
And enter into
Oh, and move into our MBA meeting?
MBA and RDA.
RDA.
Would you want, which one do you want first?
RDA.
And a motion to
Which
move
one do
into
you
our
want first?
RDA
RDA?
meeting.
That's the agenda that's next. Yeah, RDA.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can I shake your hand? You're okay with COVID? Okay.
Baby's gonna be asleep.
Yeah.
What? Oh, yeah, I'll pick it up at the end. Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
I just wasn't sure.
See ya.
I wasn't trying to embarrass you. No, no, you're fine. I just embarrassed you. I really didn't know.
It's the first one back in a while. You sure can't
I'm sucking wind right now. I'm good at
We're not even done. You can't complain.
I can, and I will.
We got that adjourned, but we have two more. Are you ready?
Okay, I'll get on him. Oh, I love it.
Okay, I'm gonna go do that. You have to see this picture.
See, I read the paper every day.
I know you do, but you have to see the picture. This is called.
Trying to help our local business. I still have a subscription.
This
to the
is
Spectrum.
called Jason Fed the Baby. Do you see that she is covered?
Oh wait, I just lost it.
Yeah.
I hit something.
I don't know. She is covered. Her bib is
Oh, yeah.
covered. Her. That
Yeah,
is the
Jason
difference
fed the baby.
between me and Jason feeding the baby.
Look at that smile.
I know. She loves food.
Uh-oh, look out.
Well, except for the green bean she spit at me. She didn't
Oh.
like those.
Oh, boy.
But this is carrots.
So Mom and Dad are leaving tomorrow for the lake?
Yeah,
Guess we won't see him.
it'll be good for him.
Oh, yeah. Who's
That's
all
the
going?
key,
Tony
right?
and
Because
Azita.
we don't own any ice stuff.
Okay.
Yep,
Isn't Cody
they're
in?
in the-
Oh,
Don't
okay.
know.
we might.
Go over for a day trip or something? Or
Yeah, maybe.
Go over on Saturday and say, hi, we're here for the day, bye.
Well, I don't like going the first.
Hey, don't go the first day.
I don't like
What?
because it's like dirty
I know, and you have to clean everything, get everything
and
geared up
there's
for the season.
bugs.
Oh.
And
That's the
taking
crux
the
of
baby
it
for
is
the first
they don't own the ice
time,
stuff. We don't
boy.
own ice stuff.
I'm a little bit more like.
And
boy.
Cedar City hasn't shown a desire to go out and buy ice stuff.
No, not yet. Maybe 20 years we'll build the right culture, but I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you. I still want to see it happen.
I
And
still
I want to see it happen downtown.
I may die before it happens, but, you know, yeah, I made it through COVID in February.
I don't know, Carter was hoping he did, and he got tested today, and he didn't have it.
Oh, he was hoping he would.
No, he got tested for antibodies,
Oh.
because he thought he was already immune.
Are they doing that? They're not doing that testing here in town, are they?
Yeah, they are. Dr. Pearson and the hospital are both doing it.
Dr. Pearson? Okay.
So, but he was very disappointed. He was hoping he might be immune, and he's
Are you gonna
not.
get tested for that,
See,
sir?
I think,
Huh?
Are you gonna
I
get
think
tested?
my blood
I
could
don't
save
think
the
I've
world.
had it.
got
I haven't been
antibodies flowing
sick,
through.
so.
I think you, Craig, you might have had it. You
Yeah,
might have
you
had
were
it.
I'm very sure I did, actually.
You're going to get the
I'm
antibody.
gonna go get tested.
So
How
was
much do
he,
those
but
tests run, do you know?
Pardon?
I guess if you go to Dr. Pearson, you just have to call and
Maybe
get
Terry
an
knows. She seems to
appointment.
know
he
about
said.
it. I don't know anything about it.
If you go to the hospital, you have to
doing
have a
my
doctor.
social distancing. I'm staying
referral.
home,
I
working
can
in my
have
yard.
Bunker line me up at the hospital.
It is nice to be back together, though.
For what,
Have
the
you seen how
antibodies?
bad my front yard looks lately?
No,
Well, I
you
put,
killed all the dandelions.
well, yeah, I put all that dirt on it.
Oh.
To
Oh, no, I
even
haven't
it
been
out.
by.
It's,
Are you going to seed it? What are you going to do?
no, I'm just letting it grow back in.
Come
It'll
back.
look good.
And it will. And it will.
But-
Yeah. But it
Yeah,
takes
they
time.
gotta function.
Okay, that's like being a bird or something.
Well, if you had it, I'm gonna test to go see if I had it, because I sat next
Well,
to
my-
you all that time going, I know I'm gonna get
My wife
it.
said, how did I avoid that? And I said, you may have been completely asymptomatic. Right?
Yeah,
So, whatever.
Why has it taken so long?
Oh my gosh, between that and live streaming, we might be here until midnight.
It's all right, you already made me miss my show.
Flash drive, please.
What, did you get on Hogan's Heroes or something like Dave, or what?
SEAL team.
It's still plugged in.
The what?
Flash drive.
SEAL team. It's my only satisfaction of the week to watch them kill a bunch of ice.
You can't hurt it.
Okay.
Give it to you then.
Hey, don't call him
Oh,
that.
so I get those, Danny's got a whole bunch upstairs. None of them, I can never get one that works, so I just keep using this one. It's all
Who have you been talking to?
Just keep bringing up my name.
real funny, huh, Robert?
We've been out this whole time right behind you.
I don't care to work with
We'll
people.
talk. We all need to
I don't usually either much, but what'd you think about the prayer request?
Total?
Prayer
I did with his
request.
wife last night.
The church is saying.
And he's still talking to you?
Yeah. Crack James together.
What a nice guy.
We didn't even do that.
I think that's what he heard.
That was kind of on a whim. I don't know about you,
Quit
but
saying you had to my wife to everybody.
it was kind of, I don't know about you, but
They didn't send it to the mayor.
I think Sarah posted
Posted it,
that,
yeah.
like
I knew about
Double-checked
like 2
on
days
that.
before.
Yeah, it was like that day about lunchtime, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna earn some brownie points. Hannah, you're going to a quiche making class tonight. She's like, oh, what?
Is there Airbnb on account? She showed me the calendar.
Craig, did you notice that? He's creating an account.
Like, people check out at 11, people check in at 3 o'clock. She disinfects, turns the whole thing over, and just boom, 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 boom.
That's
boom,
good.
boom. Like, and 3 weeks ago, there was not a single booking. Like, everybody canceled. And now it's like,
We have a little B&B.
oh yeah. Brian had, no.
Brian,
Yeah.
yes, Brian, and that was allegedly.
So you're ready for the
Yeah, I remember
next
that.
round of next
Even though it's
year?
35 miles that way.
Anyway, yeah, that, it's almost directly.
They approved it last
Three cities
night.
between here.
Yeah,
That's a
but, so,
Approved which?
Planning commission,
we had
What?
nothing.
the next mixed use across from the
yeah.
Swiss B&B.
It's fully booked through the middle
Well-
of the summer.
Oh yeah, no,
4 to
I
1,
mean, it
4
took
to
off
1 or
like.
5 to 1.
And I can't speak for the hotel. It'd actually be curious to call
Difference
Burgesses and
being,
say,
and
hey, what
I-
are your
look
numbers
at the
doing?
materials,
Chamber should
but
look at
does he
this.
have
Like,
a
just
plan?
follow up. Because I'll tell you what, I drove past the hotels last
But
week.
the interesting thing Paul told me is
Yeah, it
Like,
depends
most of the
on,
parking spot, there's very few empty parking
it
spots.
depends on,
Good to hear.
And that's on a Tuesday night. I'm like,
It's anecdotal, but
Yeah.
it's good
They
to
say
hear.
that.
yeah, it depends on the ones that are hurting the most are the lower end.
yeah.
And the higher end ones, I think some of it too, and I've been meaning to follow up because it's just been the last couple weeks that they've been allowed to reopen. But I think a lot of them are like Vegas and California people wanting to get away and be in an open economy. Well, right, exactly.
Take it.
Exactly.
Now we got this other one coming. and
Right.
I don't know what we're.
I think the ones Bruce, I think the ones he was talking about were the
With what they're doing?
La Quinta, Clarion, Golden Corral. That's all the same family that owns those, and I don't know if Golden Corral is ever gonna, I mean, yeah, cafeteria style. But I mean, us as Americans, are we ever gonna go to
We're
buffets in
ready.
droves like we used to?
When they built their homes, that was master plan
Mayor?
number one,
Mayor Wilson?
commercial, and they have the expectation.
Scott Phillips?
to say that's
Mayor Wilson. Paging Mayor Wilson and Councilman Phillips. The recording is ready.
Yes. Okay, Ron's in charge.
Go, Ron.
All right, we'll call the redevelopment agency meeting together for May 20th, 2020. We have one item on the business agenda to consider a resolution adopting the 2020-2021 tentative budget.
Okay, council, so we haven't changed anything from our prior discussions, and I don't recall that we had any specific issues from council at that time, so we can talk about those if you have any concerns now.
I just had two questions. On the Lynn's building, how long is the rent fixed at that 325?
It's a 5-year block.
Yeah, that contract adjusts every 5 years.
Okay.
The amount adjusts, the contract
We're
says the
about
same.
2.5 years into it, 3 years into it.
Yeah, this would be the third year at the 325.
We can look it up, but I don't.
It's okay.
Yeah, it shows in the history there. And then the other thing, when I started looking at it, on the interest earnings, how come do we just put all the funds together now instead of them earning interest on the RDA funds? Because it was like interest earnings up until 2 years ago, and that and the MBA, it went away. I was just kind of curious if we started managing the funds differently.
No, there's a couple different ways I do the different budgets, and it's certainly can change how we do it. But this one, if we needed more revenue to balance the expenditures, I could increase the interest earnings. Typically, we just let them go right into the balance there. So I could increase that, and if council would prefer, I could increase that to like 30,000. And then down in the bottom, I would put a fund balance expenditure at the very bottom. So but it wouldn't increase any actual outlay expenditures, but I could change that.
No, it's okay.
We've got about $1 million in there, which was earning interest. And part of me was like, well, the way interest rates are going, I don't know.
Yeah, it will still be at zero.
Yeah, but I could certainly change that from 5,000. I just didn't catch that. It isn't something I've looked at in a while.
No, it's fine. It was just a curiosity thing.
It was just not something I thought much about. My apologies.
Are the building and ground maintenance, is that just around the trees and weeds and all that kind of stuff? What is it?
So basically everything outside the glass there, trees,
grass sprinklers.
sprinklers.
And do our city employees do that?
It depends on what it is.
Kind of a combination on the grass. We've had in the past, the folks from, is it Turn? I think it's Turn.
Yeah, and
The folks from Turn have come and done it. Kenny's crews and Wade's crews have been doing it early in the season and late in the fall, when sometimes the Turn crews fall off.
It's like the main, and the trees going down the roadway out there. I mean, at one point, if they needed, so we keep changing how we do this. Now we have an emphasis on like remodeling everything out there, but at one time when it was just maintenance, it was fixing a few of the trees here and there. The RDA could do things in the parking garage, I guess, if it wanted to. Like, it's just kind of this immediate area.
Well, I have a specific question, and I don't know
Sure.
if it's under RDA or where it lands. But if you're on Harding Avenue and you're heading west and you come to the Image Pro building there, Pro Image? Image Pro. That island right there, their little landscape portion right directly behind Wells Fargo Bank, is terrible.
And we have been around and around and around on this for years.
Who does it? Who's responsible?
Mrs. Hartley. The city has maintained that is not ours. We've went and fixed up some other ones that we know are ours because we can show
So
in
that
our records.
belongs to the Levitts.
We can show in our records where we have done improvements in them.
Uh-huh.
So we've went back and fixed those up, and those are on the north side of Harding.
Yeah,
That particular one, we cannot show where we've ever spent money in it, and we're very reluctant.
Okay,
to
I just want to
expand
know who to
where
go
we're spending
after.
money.
Yeah.
Because it's terrible.
I tried to figure it out. Wells Fargo says it's not ours. It's
Right.
got sprinkling systems in there, but the city says it's not theirs, and Wells Fargo's like, we don't have anything there. And Levitt's own the other one that's over by Image.
Well, the
Pro
Levitt one is the one
awful.
that's terrible.
Yeah.
The Levitt one is
And I
terrible.
did talk to Dixie Levitt once, like 2
Well, I'm
years
gonna do it
ago
again.
about it.
Okay.
He was gonna go look at it, but
Sorry to digress. I just know it was in the
No,
RDA
those
or
are
not.
good questions.
I-
Yeah.
I gave up. Maybe you'll have
All right.
luck.
Well, not with Wells Fargo or whoever, but I can go after Dixie. Well, not him, but his company.
All
Sorry.
right, are there
Okay.
any other pertinent questions?
No.
I know it's Ron's meeting. I know it's
They are.
Ron's
The
meeting. I'm
both
just trying to
awful.
move things along.
Open Zeros is coming on in about 5 minutes.
I know.
I'm already mad, so.
asleep before I get home.
All right, we'll move it along then. So we got a motion then.
We don't have,
Motion to adjourn and go into MBA? Absolutely.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So Ron?
Yes.
Renan's gonna record both of these meetings together, so we don't have to wait and delay. So if you wanna go right to MBA, that's appropriate.
Okay.
I knew it wasn't.
All right, we'll call the MBA meeting to order for May the 20th. We have an item on the business agenda to consider resolution adopting the 2021 tentative budget.
I move we adopt the tentative budget as outlined.
No.
Oh, I can't move.
there's
I
no
can't do that. I'm
motion.
sorry. I'm so sorry. My apologies.
We want
It's
to go
late.
home.
It's late.
Yeah. So we're not motion, so we just got
Sorry.
the two debt service payments for the fire truck.
I
and the
move
animal
we
shelter.
adjourn this meeting and
We haven't changed anything, so.
Right.
Okay, we'll move it along then. Okay, motion to,
So she moved to adjourn.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's go home.